Chapter 1363. This kind of fierce competition is just a facade. In reality, everyone knows what the two sides are planning. I'm afraid that only the two new members of the Twin Fiend clan can't see through it. Long Yu sighed with emotion. However, no matter what, he had definitely gained a huge advantage in this competition between the two factions. This was enough. However, Frost had a whole new level of respect for her. This woman was definitely not simple. In other words, none of the students in the Demigod Academy were simple characters. Everyone's actions seemed unintentional, but in reality, they were all for their own benefit. The bidding continued. Very quickly, the ice essence that Long Yu had taken out was sold for a high price of 26 million. When the Imperial Wind clan raised the price to 27 million, Frost felt that it was about time. She lightly pursed her lips. 27 million. I can't pay a higher price. I'll give this ice essence to you. I hope that Tian Qingxue can bring out the power of this ice essence. Don't let it go to waste. I will. The young girl from the Twin Fiend clan, Tian Qingxue, bit her lips and nodded. 27 million army contribution points was definitely not a small burden for her. Thankfully, they had always been working together, so each of them only had to fork out 5 million army contribution points. According to the various rewards in the Demigod Academy, they would be able to earn back this amount in half a year to a year. Using it to exchange for an ice essence wasn't a bad deal. It was just that giving up so many battlefield army merits still made her a little unhappy. Since we've finally gotten the ice essence, there are some things that we need to make clear. The young man from the Twin Fiend clan, Tian Qingma, spoke in a low voice. Everyone, thank you for bidding. However, we won't take advantage of these battlefield army merits for nothing. Once we've earned this much, we will immediately return it to you. On the side, Qing Qilin Jade laughed. It's rare for you to have such thoughts. However, there's no need to be like this. If you really want to return it, just return half of it. The price of this ice essence is a bit higher than we expected. If we make you pay it all, then we'll be a bit disloyal, haha. These words were quite true. If it was Tian Qingxue and the others from the Twin Demon race, they might not be willing to exchange 27 million army merits for an ice essence. They were the ones making a fuss. Therefore, it was fair to ask the two members of the Twin Demon clan to pay half of their contribution. As for Green Qilin Jade's contribution of 17 million yuan and the other 5 members' contribution of 2 million yuan each, it was not a big deal for them if half of their contribution was deducted. When Long Yu heard this, he glanced at Green Qilin Jade. This braided youth in black tight-fitting clothes seemed to have some background. Otherwise, how could he casually take out half of the 17 million, which was 8.5 million, to bid for the ice essence for a newcomer? However, Long Yu was too lazy to investigate this matter. It would be good if he could find out, but if he couldn't, he wouldn't ask too much to avoid trouble. After all, this had nothing to do with him. After the auction was completed, Long Yu received the 27 million army merits from the Imperial Wind faction. In addition to the 5 million he already had, he had a total of 5 million army merits. This number was definitely a huge sum of money. Now that Long Yu could buy the metal-type sky spiritual source, the rest would naturally be left for Red Oriole. However, there was one more thing that Long Yu hadn't forgotten. Tian Qingxue, you said that you have a water-type sky spiritual source. Do you want to sell it? Asked Long Yu as he glanced at the young lady from the Twin Demon race. No, I'm not selling it. I'll keep it for myself. Tian Qingxue took a look at Long Yu. She didn't seem to have a good impression of him. In her eyes, Long Yu was the culprit of this fierce auction. If Long Yu hadn't taken out the ice essence, the two parties wouldn't have fought over the price. All right. Long Yu saw that she was unhappy, but he didn't care. If it were him, he would be a little unhappy too. But in fact, Long Yu was completely innocent. He only took it out for auction. Who knew that it would cause the two factions in the demonic college to fight over it and get such a high price? To be honest, at first, Long Yu just wanted to make up for the lack of the sky spiritual source. Who knew that? However, since it was sold at such a high price, Long Yu was still in a good mood. As for whether Tian Qingxue had any opinions about him, it was not within his consideration. Since Tian Qingxue didn't want to sell the water-type sky spiritual source, Long Yu didn't say much. He just stepped back and stood with Red Oriole. Then, they began to discuss what they should exchange to quickly improve their strength. The following exchanges and auctions continued. People kept coming forward to take out some good things for auction or exchange. However, nothing that was of great use to Long Yu and Red Oriole appeared. Red Oriole, on the other hand, was interested in one of the items on the exchange list of the demonic college. Divine Connection Wine. This is something made by alchemists. It is said that after drinking the Divine Connection Wine, one's body will enter a wonderful state and speed up the comprehension of all kinds of powers. Red Oriole said to Long Yu telepathically, "Generally speaking, this thing is of little value. For ordinary people, there are rarely situations where they don't have enough time to comprehend something. Most of them have comprehended one power to the fullest, but haven't obtained another power yet. But it's different for us students of the demonic colleges." Hearing that, Long Yu nodded. That's right. Most of the students of the demonic colleges are geniuses. They have more opportunities to comprehend all kinds of powers than ordinary people. Something like the Divine Connection Wine is prepared for such people. Take Long Yu, for example. There were many kinds of powers that he hadn't had time to comprehend yet. First, he had only comprehended 30% of the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text. It would take even more time to comprehend it. If he concentrated on cultivation, what he wanted to do most was to completely comprehend the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text. Second, the power of the metal element, which was the power of the absolute beginning gold pond. If he comprehended the power of the metal element, he could speed up his comprehension of the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text and increase the power of the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text. It could be said to be the foundation of all the Metal Element 9 Nether Divine text. Long Yu hadn't comprehended it all, but he was going to exchange for the Metal Element Sky Spirit Source very soon. It was not bad to passively comprehend the power of the Metal Element 9 Nether Divine text. Third, the Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine text from the giant stone statue of the multi-winged race. Long Yu didn't know what that divine text was, but he was sure that it was derived from the power of the Metal Element 9 Nether Divine text. If he could comprehend it, its power would definitely be extraordinary. Fourth, the power of the Water Element 9 Nether Divine text. This was the power that the Nether Dragon Blade possessed, but Long Yu hadn't comprehended it yet. Because of the Nether Dragon Blade, Long Yu wasn't in a hurry to comprehend this power. But when he had time in the future, he would eventually comprehend the power of the Water Element 9 Nether Divine text. Long Yu still lacked a lot of time. Things like the Divine Connection Wine that could increase the speed of comprehending power could really be obtained as much as he could get. Unfortunately, the Divine Connection Wine wasn't something that was common in the first place. Even in the Demigod Academy, it was still rare. Moreover, most people in the Demigod Academy needed something like the Divine Connection Wine. Long Yu believed that the twin demons, who were younger than him and Red Oriole, needed something like the Divine Connection Wine even more. Therefore, he wasn't sure how much he would be able to exchange for later. I checked earlier. The Demigod Academy has more than 10 bottles of Divine Connection Wine. The exchange requirement for each bottle is 4 million battlefield merits, Red Oriole said. Red Oriole said, in that case, the twin demons won't be able to exchange for the Divine Connection Wine. They now own more than 13 million battlefield merits. How can they have spare money to exchange for the Divine Connection Wine? Long Yu let out a sigh of relief. But very soon, he realized that he had guessed wrong, because he saw Tian Qingxue actually walk up to the stage and hold a sky spirit source in her hand. She was actually going to auction it. A water sky spirit source. Is she going to auction it? Long Yu narrowed his eyes. He also saw that Tian Qingxue glanced at him vaguely when she walked up to the stage, as if she was trying to provoke him. Unfortunately, Long Yu wouldn't bother with her at all. Moreover, a sky spirit source was something that everyone only needed. Most of the students in the Demigod Academy present already had their own sky spirit source. In other words, her water sky spirit source probably wouldn't be sold for a very high price. At most, it would be enough for her to pay off the debt of the ice essence she had just obtained. Of course, from this point of view, Tian Qingxue still made a profit. After all, at the beginning, she wanted to directly exchange the water sky spirit source with Long Yu for the ice essence, but Long Yu didn't agree. Now, if the water sky spirit source could be sold for 13,500,000, then Tian Qingxue's wish would be fulfilled. Long Yu paid a little attention to the auction this time and found that there were a lot of people bidding, but it wasn't very intense. The price also rose to 12 million battlefield merits before stopping, mainly because there wasn't much demand for it. It was already not bad that this thing could be sold at such a price. It wasn't like the ice essence. Whether it was a newcomer or a veteran, as long as they had the frost attribute, they would need a lot of ice essence. This kind of auction seems to be very friendly to newcomers. Is it a custom? Long Yu had a question in his mind, so he asked Moonsong next to him. Chapter 1364. When Moonsong heard Long Yu's question, she couldn't help but smile. There's no such thing as a rule. It's just that you guys are able to bring out items that are useful to everyone. It's a fair competition. There's no such thing as a rule. So that's how it is. Long Yu nodded. He had thought that Frost and the others had purposely done this to benefit the new students, but it seemed like that wasn't the case. If that was the case, then he could relax. After the auction of Sky Snow's water spirit essence ended, the gathering of the Demigod Academy students was about to come to an end. The Demigod Academy's practicals wouldn't be released today, so after it ended, they would at most have a chance to interact with each other. This opportunity was very important to many of the older students. Normally, they were constantly training outside, so they rarely had the chance to meet each other. Now that they could exchange experiences from last year, perhaps they would benefit greatly. However, to Long Yu, it wasn't that interesting because he didn't know anyone. Right now, the most he could talk to was Moonsong and Frost. As for the people from the Imperial Wind faction, Long Yu was too embarrassed to make friends with them. After all, they were from different factions. Plus, the auction of the ice essence had caused quite a few people from the Imperial Wind faction to give up a lot of military merits. Perhaps they would be the same as Sky Snow and have some opinions about Long Yu. And so, after the gathering was over, Long Yu and Red Oriole decided to go back. The practicals will be released here tomorrow. Red Oriole and I will be going back first. Before Long Yu left, he said goodbye to Moonsong and Frost. When Frost heard this, she smiled and shook her head. She gave a suggestion. Why don't you go meet that senior first? The power in her body is similar to Red Oriole's. It doesn't belong to any of the 8 divine runes. Now that she's here, it won't be so easy to see her in the future. Yes, that's fine. Long Yu thought of this and nodded. After all, this was something very important to Red Oriole. If they could figure out what the power in her body belonged to, perhaps it would give her a sudden insight and allow her to take a big step forward on the path of martial arts. Under Frost's lead, a young girl wearing a black and white dress quickly walked over. This made Long Yu and Red Oriole a little surprised. This was actually a young girl. It had to be known that even Frost called her senior. This is the senior I told you about. We all call her Yao Yao. She came to the Demigod College earlier than I did. Frost smiled slightly as she introduced him to Long Yu and Red Oriole. Yao Yao, they're this year's new students. Take a look and see if you can sense the special power in Red Oriole's body. Frost asked the girl in the black and white dress. The girl in the black and white dress, who was called Yao Yao, walked over with a faint smile on her face. It was impossible to tell what she was thinking. She was a human cultivator, but the aura on her body was indeed somewhat unique. The attributes of the divine runes are divided into 8 attributes: light, shadow, ice, fire, life, space, berserker, and elemental. However, the energy within this medicine doesn't belong to any of these 8 attributes. In fact, compared to Red Oriole's energy, it's even more completely separated from the 8 attributes. As soon as Long Yu saw the girl in the black and white dress, his expression immediately changed. Of course I can feel it. However, the power isn't very strong. The seventh phase great ruler, Yao Yao, looked Red Oriole up and down. She softly said, the blood demon race's bloodline has a bit of a special power. However, it's usually very difficult to activate. I didn't think that this person will be able to activate quite a bit. Moreover, if her bloodline is completely awakened, that special power will be activated even more. Bloodline awakening? Red Oriole had heard of this term before in her race. However, even her father, the blood demon race's leader, didn't know the specifics. So when she heard this term, her eyes lit up. She was definitely very interested. If this medicine really knew something about bloodline awakening, then Red Oriole had to grab this opportunity. That's right, bloodline awakening. This kind of bloodline isn't just found in the demon race. In fact, some humans have it as well. It's just that the bloodline inheritance of humans and the demon race is different. Yao Yao nodded. My bloodline has already awakened. If you want to awaken your own bloodline, you can come find me later. I'll explain it to you in detail. And all right, thank you, Senior. Red Oriole nodded her head gratefully. She could tell that this medicine's aura was even stronger than her father's. Although the blood demon race's leader and the girl in the black and white dress were both seventh phase great rulers, if they were to fight, the blood demon race's leader would definitely not be Yao Yao's match. After all, Yao Yao was a member of the Demigod Institute. It was just like how Consort Yu was invincible in the outside world as long as she didn't run into any demigods. Speaking of which, Long Yu still didn't know why Consort Yu had left the Demigod Institute. He took this opportunity to ask, do you guys know of Consort Yu? Consort Yu had probably spent a lot of time cultivating in the Demigod Institute. Frost and Yao Yao had both been in the Demigod Institute for many years, so they should have heard of Consort Yu. Of course I know. When Frost heard this, she said in a low voice, that girl. Back then, her talent shocked even us. Unfortunately, as the Nine Yu clan saintess, she couldn't stay in the Demigod Institute for too long. She only stayed for 3 years before leaving. So it was because of her identity, Long Yu felt that it was a pity. If Consort Yu had stayed in the Demigod Institute, then perhaps she would have been even closer to the demigod level, right? When she returned to the Nine Yu clan and became the saintess of the Nine Yu clan, Consort Yu had given up a lot of things. No wonder she hated that identity so much. Although the incident with Long Yu and the Consort Yu realm was the fuse that caused Consort Yu to leave the Nine Yu clan, it definitely wasn't the main reason. As the saintess of the Nine Yu clan, the conflict between Consort Yu and the Nine Yu clan was already very deep. I heard that Consort Yu left the Nine Yu clan of her own accord because of you, Long Yu. She no longer wanted to be the saintess of the Nine Yu clan. But I wonder, where is she now? Yao Yao's eyes lit up. When Consort Yu was in the Demigod Institute, she and I got along very well. She could be counted as one of my most congenial friends. Long Yu didn't expect Yao Yao to have such a relationship with Consort Yu. But obviously, he couldn't tell her about the Void Galaxy. Long Yu could only smile and say, she's probably cultivating somewhere in the demon race's territory right now. I'm not very sure. If I see her next time, I could say hello to her on your behalf. That won't be necessary. If there's a chance next time, I'll spar with her again and see who has improved more over the years. Yao Yao shook her head and said indifferently. Long Yu had nothing to say after that. Then, you can go back first. Remember to buy the Divine Connection wine. I'll wait for Senior Yao Yao. There are some questions that I really want to ask you. Red Oriole said to Long Yu. Long Yu nodded. All right, then I'll be leaving first. Seniors, farewell. With that, Long Yu went back first. He had to hurry back and buy all the things that he needed to buy. Very quickly, Long Yu returned to his personal space and went to the center of a barren mountain range where the water origin power light ball was. Now that he had 5 million army merit points, there were too many things that he could exchange for. But he didn't need anything else. He had a goal for coming back this time. First, of course, was the metal-type Holy Spirit source. It required a total of 13 million army merit points to exchange for. To Long Yu, this was a huge improvement. Moreover, it would allow him to continuously comprehend the metal-type primordial energy for a period of time. 13 million battlefield merit points. To Long Yu, it wasn't even half of his wealth. However, in the outside world, the vast majority of 7th phase dominators wouldn't be able to possess such a generous amount of wealth. Even an Emperor Legion commander like Shuo Luo wouldn't have a total wealth of 10 million. This was the advantage of joining a demigod academy. Of course, these army merit points weren't obtained for no reason. Each student of the Demigod Academy would complete their daily training and contribute more to the human race and demon race than anyone else. The more one contributed, the more resources they could obtain. This had always been the case for the human race and demon race. Some precious resources could only be obtained by paying the price. Of course, there were still many young masters in the human race and demon race who could sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. But even such people could only obtain limited resources. Truly precious things couldn't be obtained by such people no matter what. Even if their clans had some treasures like power essence, they wouldn't give them to these young masters. They would only be given to the strongest of their clans. Only then would they be able to make the best use of it and obtain more resources for their clans. The metal spirit source is in my hands. I still have 5 million army merit points left. I'll use it to exchange for 5 bottles of divine wine. I'll have 500,000 left for emergencies. Long Yu quickly made his decision. The divine ascension wine was the most important thing to him and Red Oriole right now. With this thing, their strength would increase many times faster than before. Exchanging 20 million for 5 bottles of divine ascension wine was definitely a very good deal. As for the specific effects of the divine wine, Long Yu wasn't very clear. But he roughly knew that after a cultivator drank a bottle of divine wine, they would enter a state where they could communicate with heaven and earth. In this state, the cultivator's speed of comprehending various powers would increase by at least 10 times or even 100 times. As for how much the increase would be, it would depend on the cultivator himself. Not everyone would have the same effect after drinking the divine wine. Chapter 1365. Long Yu quickly exchanged for all the things he needed. The metal-type Sky Spirit Source and 5 bottles of Soul Transcendence wine had cost him a total of 33 million army merit points. In the past, he wouldn't even have dared to think about it. However, Long Yu's current value was far beyond that, so there was nothing to be sad about. Any demigod corpse of an unknown race was worth 10 times the army merit points, and Long Yu had given hundreds of demigod corpses to the battlefield army. The total value of the various cultivation resources he received was far beyond the army merit points, but they were resources for the development of the entire Void Galaxy Coalition, not for Long Yu himself. Let's fuse the metal-type Sky Spirit Source into the small world first. Long Yu thought to himself, and then he began to act. The fusion speed of the Sky Spirit Source was very fast. As for the divine wine, now was not the time to drink it. Tomorrow was the day of the experiential training. Long Yu had to at least know what kind of experiential training mission he had accepted. Only then could he make a reasonable plan for his cultivation. After all, the effect of the divine wine would not last for a day or two, and it could not be fully unleashed in a short period of time. This thing was too precious, at least in the human and demon territories. There were definitely very few alchemists who could refine it. That was why it was worth 4 million army merit points, which was equivalent to the income of an ordinary 6th or 7th stage ruler for more than a year. Moreover, this divine wine was said to be very effective, so Long Yu naturally did not want to waste any of its effects. Sky Spirit Source, Metal Origin Source, as Long Yu thought to himself, he took out the 9 Hell Steel and put the metal-type Sky Spirit Source into the small world inside the 9 Hell Steel. The metal-type Sky Spirit Source was a small golden ball of light. Long Yu held it in his hand and directly returned to the small world inside the 9 Hell Steel. Then he activated the power of the world and enveloped the small golden ball of light. Under the envelopment of the power of the world, the golden light of the metal-type Sky Spirit Source spread out and fused into the small world, starting to transform Long Yu's small world. Long Yu could feel the recovery speed of the heaven and earth spirit chi in his small world increasing. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, at the same time that the heaven and earth spiritual chi's regeneration speed increased. You could also feel a kind of metal-attributed primordial energy continuously entering his small world. This allowed him to finally comprehend the metal-attributed primordial energy a little. Although it was only a little, so little that it could even be ignored, it was still a beginning for Long Yu to comprehend the metal-type primordium power of metal. After about 6 hours, Long Yu could feel that his understanding of the metal-attributed Genesis power had finally started to slowly increase. The metal-attributed heaven's spiritual source had completely fused with the small world, and it had finally started to take effect. About 6 hours later, Long Yu could feel that his understanding of the metal-type primordium power was slowly growing. The metal-type sky spirit source had completely fused into the small world, and it was finally taking effect. With this, I only need a few days to try to absorb the extra heaven and earth spirit chi, and then upgrade the devil dust heart to the 3rd level. Long Yu thought to himself. He was very satisfied with the effects of the metal-type sky spirit source. Right now, his small world was mainly feeding the billions of humans and demons of the new martial world. These were the creatures that he had brought over from the 9 Hell world, and there were also 300,000 bone race clansmen. Now that Long Yu had a lot of heaven and earth spirit chi, he could give some to the bone race clansmen. But the key was that Long Yu had to negotiate with the leader of the bone race, Yu Wufang. It would be best if he could get the other party to hand over an unending level martial skill jade slip. In any case, Long Yu's strength was much higher than before. Even if the 300,000 bone race clansmen attacked Long Yu together, Long Yu wouldn't be afraid. Among the bone race clansmen, the strongest was Yu Wufang, but he was only at the level of the 5-star emperor. Because they didn't have a creation item, it was impossible for them to improve. Therefore, Long Yu gave some heaven and earth spirit chi to the younger generation of the bone race clansmen to cultivate. It was of great importance to the bone race clansmen, but it didn't affect Long Yu much. Long Yu opened up a sealed space in his small world, and then gathered most of the heaven and earth spirit chi in the small world into this sealed space. In this way, the heaven and earth spirit chi in this sealed space was enough for the 100 billion cultivators in the new martial world to cultivate. For Long Yu, it was an extremely valuable treasure. The biggest change was that he could quickly cultivate the devil dust heart to the 6th level. As long as there was no shortage of heaven and earth spirit chi, he could quickly step into the 6th level of any martial skill. After everything was done, Long Yu left the sealed space with satisfaction. He took the netherworld void dragon blade and went to find Yu Wufang of the bone race clansmen. The other party was in his own small world, so Long Yu could easily find him, and he could appear in front of him in an instant. The bone race clansmen lived in a relatively remote corner of Long Yu's small world. The heaven and earth spirit chi, there was only enough for their daily needs. It was impossible to rely on it to cultivate. If Huang Xiaolong was frugal, he could use it to help the younger generation improve, but it was impossible for them to step into the sovereign secret realm. Once they reached the emperor's level of cultivation, it became incomparably difficult to increase it without the help of the creation object. In this remote corner of the small world, the bone race clansmen had built many bone buildings. These buildings were where they lived, they were their home. Long Yu's arrival did not alarm the other ordinary bone race clansmen. He directly went to find Yu Wufang. My cultivation has increased, so I can give you a little more benefits. But in exchange, I hope you can take out something useful to me. Long Yu saw Yu Wufang and said directly, then let the netherworld void dragon blade convey his words to the other party. After all, it was difficult to communicate between different races, especially the bone race clansmen. They did not have things like mouths. To Long Yu, the bone race clansmen were just a pile of bones that could think. Yu Wufang was originally resting with his eyes closed, thinking about the way out of the bone race clansmen. He was caught off guard when Long Yu suddenly appeared in front of him. But after hearing Long Yu's words, Yu Wufang also had some ideas. What benefits can you give us? Yu Wufang asked, and the netherworld void dragon blade transmitted his words to Long Yu. Heaven and earth spirit energy can help you juniors cultivate without worry. In my small world, the growth rate of heaven and earth spirit energy has increased a lot, so I can provide it to you. But if we don't make a deal, I have no obligation to provide you with heaven and earth spirit energy. Long Yu said bluntly, "What do you want?" To tell you the truth, the only thing you need from the Bone Race clansmen are those unbounded martial skill jade slips. If you want them, I can naturally give them to you. But it also depends on whether the benefits you can provide us are useful. Yu Wufang was not so easily deceived. At the very least, it was impossible for him to directly take out an unbounded martial skill jade slip. Since that's the case, I'll let you taste the sweetness in a day. I'll give you the accumulated heaven and earth spirit energy first. In exchange, you need to provide me an unbounded martial skill jade slip. Long Yu smiled. Of course. For the next month, I'll provide you with 10 times the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. In fact, for every unbounded martial skill jade slip, I'll provide you with 10 times the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. If you need it, I'll even give you a few more unbounded martial skills. Long Yu smiled and said, "That's right." This was not difficult for Long Yu. Originally, the amount of world spirit energy that the Bone Race and the Vestigial Race consumed was less than 1% of the little world's total world spirit energy. Now, even 10 times more heaven and earth spirit energy was only a drop in the bucket for Long Yu's small world. It had no effect on him. But 10 times more heaven and earth spirit energy was completely different for the Bone Race and the Vestigial Race. For any race, heaven and earth spirit energy was the foundation of development and survival. The Bone Race and the Vestigial Race were the same. They did not have a sovereign secret realm, and without a small world, there was no heaven and earth spirit energy. If they wanted to survive and develop, they could only rely on Long Yu. Now, Long Yu's proposal was to guess what they were thinking. In fact, Yu Wufang was moved by Long Yu's negotiation. They still had a lot of unbounded martial skill jade slips. These martial skills had been looted from the humans and monster race in the past, and were of no use to the Bone Race and the Vestigial Race. Such a deal could be said to be extremely beneficial to both sides. Both sides were using things that were useless to them to exchange for things that were important to them. But what Yu Wufang considered was the survival of the Bone Race and the Vestigial Race. Did they want to survive, or did they want to develop? In Long Yu's small world, the unbounded martial skill jade slips were a prerequisite for their survival. If all the jade slips were given to Long Yu, would Long Yu still keep them? There was a deep suspicion between different races. Yu Wufang would never think that Long Yu had good intentions. Otherwise, the end of the Bone Race and the Vestigial Race wouldn't be far away. Yu Wufang had to weigh the pros and cons. If he made the slightest mistake, it would be the end of their race. Chapter 1366. Yu Wufang thought about it for a long time. Long Yu didn't rush him and let him think about it. After an hour, Yu Wu finally made up his mind. "All right, I agree to your terms, but I also have a request. If you can't agree to it, then forget about this deal." Yu Wufang sent a divine will message to Little Void, which was immediately picked up by Long Yu. "Tell me about it." Long Yu nodded. He wanted to know what the other party wanted. "When the time is right, we will give you 5 jade slips, all of which contain the unbounded martial skills of either the human or demon folk. In exchange, you will allow us to leave your minor world and develop on our own." Yu Wufang's divine sense transmitted over. This request was already within Long Yu's expectations. For a race, the most important thing was survival. If survival couldn't be guaranteed, then everything else was meaningless. In Long Yu's minor world, they could only rely on the unbounded martial skill jade slips to ensure their survival. If they didn't, Long Yu could crush them to death at any moment. After all, Long Yu's minor world was under Long Yu's control. Thankfully, they had some special methods that allowed them to hide the unbounded martial skill jade slips. Otherwise, Long Yu wouldn't even know if he would try to rob them. Therefore, It was only natural that they would want to leave Long Yu's minor world and go to a relatively safe place. But are you sure you can find a place where you could develop on your own? Long Yu smiled and sent a message back with his divine sense. There is such a place, but if I can find it, I will need such a place for myself. Of course, when I find a second place, I will consider letting you leave and develop freely. Long Yu wasn't that stupid. Although Yu Wufang was only willing to give him one unbounded martial skill jade slip per year, as long as he was around, Long Yu would be able to benefit from him. If Yu Wufang left, he would immediately get 5 unbounded martial skill jade slips. But in the long run, it would be a loss. Of course, on the surface, Long Yu couldn't refuse. Otherwise, Yu Wufang would think that Long Yu wanted to trap them in his minor world. That wouldn't be good. So on the surface, he agreed, and then expressed that it would be difficult to find a place like that. That way, there wouldn't be a problem. Yu Wufang received Long Yu's divine will and knew that he had a point. If there really was a place where the Bones folk could develop freely, they wouldn't be able to occupy it. After all, the Bones folk were too weak right now. They couldn't withstand a single blow from any race. In fact, not to mention a single race, even a single ruler's secret realm expert will be able to annihilate all 300,000 of their tribes. Since that's what you want, there's nothing we can do. Yu Wufang quickly replied to Long Yu. 10 times the spiritual energy of the world in exchange for an unbounded martial skill jade slip. The Bones folk agree. When we see enough spiritual energy of the world tomorrow, we will hand over the unbounded martial skill jade slip. All right. Long Yu nodded his head. He didn't stay any longer and turn around to leave. The two sides had basically reached an agreement. Long Yu didn't need to waste any more time here. The Bones folks' greatest use to Long Yu were the unbounded martial skills. For the time being, Long Yu didn't know how many the other side had. But Long Yu believed that as he grew stronger, he would be able to force them to hand over the unbounded martial skills even faster. Long Yu knew what Yu Wufang was thinking. The other side wanted the Bones folk to continue to grow stronger. But before that, he was most worried about their safety. As long as Long Yu considered it from this perspective, he could propose an exchange. The other side wouldn't refuse. Unless the other side didn't have many unbounded martial skill jade slips left. In that case, in order to ensure their own value and basic survival rights, they might give up the opportunity to develop themselves. After Long Yu left his little world, he entered the 9 Hell Steel's internal space to comprehend the Revelation Level 9 Hell Divine characters. Although it was only for a short time, Long Yu didn't want to waste any time at all. Early the next morning, Long Yu came out of 9 Hell Steel and prepared to go to the assembly hall of the Demigod Institute to see what kind of training missions had been issued. As soon as he came out of his personal space, he saw Red Oriole also coming out. Long Yu went up to greet her and asked, "How was it? Did Yao Yao tell you anything about the method to awaken special bloodlines?" "Yes, she told me a little, but our special bloodlines are different, so she didn't know the specific method. She just told me about the process of her special bloodline awakening." Red Oriole nodded. "Yao Yao is a good person. Although she looks cold, she's actually very enthusiastic. Do you have any plans for the training mission today? I heard from Yao Yao that every time the training missions are issued, the students can't see the specific content. They can only see the execution area and recommended cultivation level. Execution area and recommended cultivation level. Long Yu thought of something and said, "If that's the case, I want to find a training mission to the human territory. There should be one, right? I want to find my father, Long Zaiqian, and then visit Xiao Bai's senior refiner friend. Well, it's not a problem if it's on the way. Anyway, let's go take a look first." Red Oriole smiled and took Long Yu's arm. Then, the two of them walked to the assembly hall together. On the day the training missions were issued, all the students of the Demigod Academies would arrive. Of course, some people came especially early and even waited directly in the assembly hall. As soon as the experiential training missions were released, some people accepted them and directly teleported out to train. Long Yu and Red Oriole weren't in such a hurry, so by the time they arrived at the assembly hall, half of the students had already accepted the training missions and left. When Long Yu entered the assembly hall, many people's eyes focused on him and Red Oriole. One of them was Moonsong from Frost Faction. Moonsong was a new student who had joined the Demigod Academy last year. She didn't know many people in the Demigod Academy. This time, she got along well with Red Oriole, so she ran over with small steps. Red Oriole, what kind of training missions are you going to accept? Our martial realms are about the same, so why don't we go together? Moonsong invited Red Oriole with a smile. Sure, we're these. Red Oriole nodded, then pointed at the assembly hall. There were a few balls of light floating in the air. She and Long Yu had noticed them as soon as they entered. These are the experiential experience seals. Every ball of light contains experiential experience seal. Touch these balls of light, and you will know where the experiential experience seal will teleport you to. You will also know what cultivation level the experiential experience seal is suitable for. If you're sure you want to accept this experiential experience, you can touch the experiential experience seal inside the ball of light. The experiential experience seal will teleport you to the experiential experience execution area. Moonsong explained for a while, and only then did Long Yu and Red Oriole roughly understand. Then I'll go take a look first. Long Yu, on the other hand, was not in a hurry. After all, his martial arts level was very low. In the entire Demigod College, no one's martial arts level was lower than his, except for the twin demon boy and girl who were also new students like him. Therefore, if the Demigod Academy issued a mission for the lesser ruler level, the others would definitely be too lazy to accept it. After all, the rewards were too little compared to other missions. Long Yu didn't really care. Right now, his main goal was to familiarize himself with the Demigod Academy's missions. As for rewards, he didn't need a lot of them for the time being. It had to be known that Long Yu had all the cultivation resources he needed, so he wasn't particularly in need of other cultivation resources to improve himself. Therefore, Long Yu flew to one of the experience seal balls of light with a relatively relaxed attitude. Then he extended his hand and touched the ball of light. The ball of light was about the size of a fist. It floated in the air and emitted a gentle white light. There were about a few hundred of such balls of light in the assembly hall. When Long Yu's hand touched the experience seal ball of light, a message was transmitted to Long Yu's mind through the ball of light. Mission location: outside the Yao race's territory, within the Fire God race's territory. Recommended cultivation level: 4th rank Dominator. Recommended number of participants: 5 or more. Reward: 3 million battlefield army contribution points. After receiving this message, Long Yu was in a bit of pickle. In the introduction of the training, there were no general requirements. Before they officially accepted the training, no one knew what they were going to do in the training. No matter what, if they wanted to go to the Fire God race's territory to do something, they definitely couldn't be too weak. Even ordinary 7th rank Dominators would definitely encounter a lot of unpredictable dangers if they went to the Fire God race's territory. Not to mention, the requirement for Demigod students to accept this mission was to be a 4th rank Dominator. It could be seen that the missions in the Demigod Academy couldn't be confused with the missions in the outside world. Not to mention, just the rewards were completely different. This isn't good. I can't see the specific mission details. How am I going to choose a mission? Long Yu slightly furrowed his brows. In reality, if it was an exploration-type mission, even if it was a 7th rank Dominator level mission, Long Yu would be able to handle it. But if it was a combat-type mission, then there was no way Long Yu could defeat an opponent of a Dominator level. Now that Long Yu couldn't see the mission details, he could only prepare for the worst. The strongest existence he could deal with was at the upper Dominator level. In that case, it would be best if the mission was below the upper Dominator level. Otherwise, it was very likely that Long Yu wouldn't be able to complete the mission. Chapter 1367. Long Yu switched to another training seal and continued his search. He discovered that most of the missions recorded in the Trial Mark Light Ball in the Assembly Hall required one to be at least a 4th or 5th phase ruler to participate. Moreover, many of them were group missions that required 3 to 5 people to work together. This mission isn't bad. It's near the edge of the human territory. The recommendation is for 3 people, and they have to be at least a third phase ruler. Red Oriole's message caught Long Yu and Moonsong's attention. Moonsong had been looking for a suitable training mission, but she couldn't complete it by herself. In reality, if Moonsong wanted to find someone to go with her, it would be a piece of cake. However, Frost had given her a mission, which was to help Long Yu and Red Oriole. She stayed behind and waited for Long Yu and Red Oriole to move together. Long Yu flew towards Red Oriole's location. When he touched the training Mark-Light sphere, he discovered that it was just as Red Oriole had said. This training mission would take place near the borders of human territory, which just happened to be in line with Long Yu's requirements. He wanted to find Long Zai-Tion. He heard that Long Zai-Tion was currently a general on the battlefield with the outsiders. If that was really the case, then there was no reason for Long Zai-Tion not to go back to the Nine Serenities realm to take him and his mother away. Unless there was a special reason. In any case, there was no point for Long Yu to make wild guesses. He might as well go over as soon as possible. As for this training mission, it was recommended to be a third phase ruler. For Moonsong, this was just right. For Red Oriole, with her current battle strength, she would definitely be able to complete this training mission. Finally, there was only Long Yu left. He was only a lower ruler, but even if it was a battle between third phase rulers, he would still be able to play a decisive role. If that was the case, then accepting this training mission was a good choice. Only Moonsong looked at Long Yu suspiciously. With your cultivation, you're still quite a distance away from becoming a third phase ruler. Are you sure this training mission won't be dangerous? Don't worry about that. It's not like you don't know that he stalled the demigods of the Ice God Clan and the Desolate God Clan for such a long time. Also, he played a great role when he explored the alien relics with us. Red Oriole asked with a smile. Then I'll believe you. Moonsong stuck out her tongue and smiled at the two of them. Her mischievous look was quite cute. Then I'll accept this training mission. Red Oriole nodded. She then extended her fair hand into the center of the Seal of Experience ball and touched the Seal of Experience inside the ball. As a result, the ball of light surrounding the Seal of Trials shattered. The Seal of Trials was a small jade slip, and Red Oriole held it in her hand. This Seal of Trials was made in a very special way. It was definitely not an ordinary jade slip, and there's also a powerful wave of water primordial power sealed within it. This water primordial power could directly teleport the students participating in the training mission to the execution area and bring them back to the Demigod College from the execution area. This kind of teleportation method surpassed the space-time mark. The principle behind it was similar to the space-time tunnel. Only demigod experts could come up with such a method. It took a lot of effort to make these seals of trials. This made it convenient for the students of the Demigod College to save time. They could use the least amount of time to complete more training missions and make greater contributions to the human race and the demon race. There were almost 100 students in the Demigod College. Every one of them was the elite of the elites of the human race and the demon race. If they wasted all their time on traveling, their growth would definitely slow down. This was a situation that demigods did not want to see. When Red Oriole touched the Seal of Trials, she finally understood the main content of this training mission. Then, she told Moonsong and Long Yu the content of this training mission. They want us to find an alien war criminal hiding at the edge of the human race's territory. That alien war criminal should be a 4th or 5th level great ruler. Red Oriole was a little confused. What do you mean by alien war criminal? Moonsong, do you know? Moonsong smiled and nodded. Of course I do. In fact, the human race and the demon race are not enemies with all alien races. There are a few alien races that have formed peaceful alliances with us. Of course, these alliances are all secret alliances. Ordinary people would never know about them. Even we don't know which alien races have formed an alliance with us. As for this war criminal, he is wanted by the alien races. He has now escaped to the edge of the human race's territory and is hiding. Long Yu was a little surprised to hear this. He did not expect such a relationship. Between races, of course, there was more than just hostility. After all, when it came to interests, there would be competition and cooperation. If there was a mutually beneficial cooperation, then there would be no need to continue being hostile. This was the law of survival for all races. Find war criminals and capture them alive. This was the objective of this mission. This kind of mission was relatively common. Moonsong had completed 3 or 4 training missions last year, and one of them was to find a war criminal. To be honest, the risk of finding a war criminal isn't that high. It's just that it's too troublesome. After all, the target might not always be in the same place. We have to keep searching. Moonsong furrowed her brows. Also, the death rate of war criminal missions has always been 0. However, the success rate is very low. Probably 1 out of every 2 war criminal missions will fail. This is because the alien war criminals are too difficult to find. Our spiritual senses and deduction abilities are not bad. If the enemy is only a 4th or 5th level great ruler, we might be able to give it a try. It shouldn't be too much of a problem. Long you thought as he said. The problem is that we still don't know what the war criminal looks like, what alien race he is, or what kind of power or aura he possesses. You don't have to worry about that. Although the training seal Jade Slip didn't mention this, the training seal already contains the alien war criminal's aura, Moonsong said with a smile. As long as we keep the training seal, we will be able to sense his aura at any time and use it to track him. This training mission was probably given to us by the Alien Alliance. Thus, it is normal for the other party to retain the war criminal's aura on the training seal. Let's head over first. The failure rate of this mission is not low. It's better to get serious as soon as possible. Moonsong continued, gesturing to Red Oriole to activate the water-type Genesis power teleportation array on the training seal. Of course, Red Oriole and Long Yu didn't dare to be negligent. Red Oriole tightly gripped the jade slip containing the seal of trial. She used her own strength to activate the jade slip, finally activating a burst of water-type Genesis power. In the assembly hall, this scene had happened many times. After the students accepted the training mission, they would use the training seal to directly teleport to the mission's execution area. At this moment, Long Yu, Red Oriole, and Moonsong were bathed in a wave of water-type Genesis power. As the wave of water-type Genesis power continued to condense and rearrange itself in a special way, it finally formed a small space-time tunnel. This small space-time tunnel could only accommodate 4 or 5 people at the same time. After that, it would completely collapse. It was only a single-use space-time tunnel. This kind of space-time tunnel could only be constructed by demigod experts. The space-time passageway appeared in front of the 3 of them. Then, the 3 of them looked at each other and nodded. Before entering the space-time passageway, Long Yu had activated the balance control and blessed each of them with the balanced light, enhancing their spiritual sense perception ability by 10 times. When Moonsong sensed the effects of the light of equalization, she could not help but gape. She was a little surprised by such a method, a 10-fold increase in the perception of one's spiritual sense. With such a godly skill, Moonsong felt that she would be able to complete this mission of searching for war criminals. After completing it, she would receive 3 million battlefield army merits. If the 3 of them split it equally, each of them would receive about 1 million battlefield army merits. Most importantly, if everything went smoothly, a mission like searching for war criminals could be completed in a day. It could be said to be one of the most efficient missions. Of course, the failure rate was high because these alien war criminals would often change places to escape to. Now that Long Yu and the others had teleported over, there was no telling where the alien war criminals were. Let's go. The 3 of them were all blessed by the light of equalization. Then, they stepped into the one-time space-time tunnel that appeared in front of them. Long Yu was already very familiar with the experience of the space-time tunnel. At this moment, without any hesitation, he stepped into it and kept moving forward. The entire space-time tunnel was indeed narrow and could only accommodate 3 people at the same time. Behind them, the space-time tunnel began to collapse. After all, it was only a one-time portal. Even if a demigod could build one, It was impossible for them to build one that was too solid. Otherwise, even a demigod would have been completely exhausted if all the hundreds of marks of experience in the assembly hall were refined. This kind of space-time tunnel could only allow the students of the demigod colleges to pass through once. After that, it would collapse. If they could not move forward in time, it would be normal for them to be sucked into the space turbulence. Of course, the geniuses who could come to the demigod colleges would definitely not encounter such a thing. The space-time tunnel began to collapse from the back. At the front, Long Yu, Red Oriole, and Moonsong were moving forward at an extremely fast speed. Very soon, they reached the end of the space-time tunnel. 100 kilometers in the space-time tunnel was trillions of kilometers in the outside world. It was impossible to calculate how far they had traveled. Chapter 1368. After exiting the space-time tunnel, Long Yu and the other two arrived at a quiet starry sky. According to the Seal of Trials, this was the place where the foreign war criminal was last seen. A bit of the foreign war criminal's aura was left here, which was collected and integrated into the Seal of Trials. The Seal of Trials said that the last time the foreign war criminal appeared here was half a month ago. He's definitely far away by now. Red Oriole looked around and furrowed her eyebrows. However, the foreign war criminal definitely can't use the human race's space-time imprint to get here. Even if it's half a month, he can't get very far. Let's try to divine it first. Okay, Long Yu nodded. Even if he couldn't get very far in half a month, there was no way he would still be within the range of their spiritual senses. There was no way he would stay in one place. The secret martial arts technique of the blood demon race, that Red Oriole, belonged to increased one's divination ability. If she cultivated it to the peak, perhaps it would be like balance control. She would have a method similar to balance light. Unfortunately, Red Oriole hadn't cultivated it to the peak of the 9th stage yet. After all, after the 6th stage of the secret martial arts technique, the amount of creation power needed was enormous. Red Oriole had used all of the creation items she had obtained to increase her own martial arts realm. The cultivation of 2nd stage ruler was still relatively weak. At the very least, if she wanted to stand firm in this starry sky, the 2nd stage ruler was far from enough. The 7th stage ruler was just the beginning. Once she reached the 7th stage ruler level, Red Oriole would begin to make up for her other weaknesses. As for demigods, she was still too far away. Although they were all 7th stage rulers, there didn't seem to be much of a difference in their cultivation levels. However, people like Consort Yu, Frost, and Imperial Wind all had techniques that were much stronger than normal cultivators. For now, Red Oriole didn't have the time to improve her secret martial arts technique. However, the 6th stage of the secret martial arts technique was enough for her to use. The power of deduction continued to gather in her hands, and the 6 demonic blood wings behind her spread open, further increasing the power of deduction she gathered. Then, the power of deduction, along with the aura of the foreign war criminal on the Seal of Experience, began to surge madly in one direction, landing on the foreign war criminal. Through the aura of a foreign war criminal, Red Oriole was able to deduce some information about him. As for how much she could deduce, that would depend on how powerful the other party's deduction abilities were. The power of deduction was a special power that was independent of the 5 elements. No one knew what it was that could connect everything with the power of deduction. If the strength of both parties' deduction abilities was about the same, it would not be that easy to deduce the other's information. Fortunately, with the amplification of secret martial arts techniques, Red Oriole's deduction abilities were naturally superior. However, although Red Oriole's deduction abilities were more powerful, it was not by much. If she wanted to deduce the other party's information, she would have to spend a lot of time and effort. Follow me. I know the general location. Although it's not very accurate, we can still move first. About 2 hours later, Red Oriole finally opened her eyes and stopped deducing the foreign war criminal. She smiled confidently. Okay, let's go. Moonsong also nodded with a smile. She could feel how powerful Red Oriole's deduction abilities had been in the past 2 hours. Although Red Oriole was one level lower than her, the deduction abilities that she had gathered were definitely much stronger than hers. Moonsong had seen this situation before. Because everyone cultivated different secret martial arts techniques, everyone was good at different things. Geniuses who could enter the Demigod Academy basically all had one or two special abilities that surpassed ordinary people. Wasn't Moonsong the same? Since Red Oriole had deduced the general location, the three of them immediately started moving. This place was at the border of the human territory, close to the battlefield of the foreign races. The human territory was similar to the demon territory. Between the human territory and the battlefield of the foreign races, there was an outer galaxy, which served as the last line of defense between the battlefield of the foreign races and the human territory. The only difference was that the demon territory had 3 outer domain galaxies, while the human territory had 4 outer domain galaxies. The human territory's defensive line was much longer than the demon territory's. Of course, the difficulty of defense for both sides was about the same. The outer galaxy, near the demon territory, was guarded by many demon experts. It could be said that the two sides were working together. The foreign war criminal's aura was pointed in the direction of the second outer galaxy of the human territory. Of course, the distance was not that far. Right now, Long Yu and the other two were at a galaxy at the edge of the human territory. It was called the Qing Luo Galaxy, and it was guarded and governed by the Qing Luo clan. The Qing Luo clan was a human clan like the Jiuyo clan and the Lushan clan. It was different from the demarcation of the demon territory. In the human territory, each galaxy was guarded by one clan. On the demon territory, many galaxies were guarded by multiple demon clans. For example, the Iron Wall Galaxy was guarded by 4 great demon clans. In any case, the strength of each galaxy's leader was about the same. If the Qing Luo Galaxy and the Iron Wall Galaxy were to fight, it was hard to predict who would win. The foreign war criminal must be hiding in the Qing Luo Galaxy. It was impossible for him to go to the second outer galaxy. After all, as a foreign war criminal, it was impossible for him to use the teleportation formation of the human territory's space-time imprint. Since he had escaped here, he could only temporarily hide in the Qing Luo Celestial River since it was difficult to return. After all, only in the Celestial River could he obtain some heaven and earth spiritual energy, creation items, and other cultivation resources. It could even be said to be survival resources. Even a great ruler-level expert had to absorb some creation power from time to maintain the normal operation of his small world. Otherwise, once the small world collapsed, his cultivation would be destroyed. In the Qing Luo Galaxy, there were 6 large sources of divine runes. They all contained the Qing Luo Divine Rune, which was a very powerful defensive divine rune. It was the elemental power of the divine rune derived from the power of the earth element primordial beginning. The power of the divine rune was everywhere in the galaxy. Although it was very thin, it made people feel that they were not in the void, but in a galaxy. In the void, the feeling of having something and not having something was very different. In the Qing Luo Galaxy, although nothing could be seen with the naked eye, feeling the thin power of the Qing Luo Divine Rune in the surrounding space made people feel a sense of security. Come in. It will be faster with little void leading us. Long Yu took out the Nether Void Dragon Blade, then invited the 2 girls into the inner space of the Nether Void Dragon Blade. After all, the Nether Void Dragon Blade was completely filled with water-type primordial energy. If it used void travel, it would be able to cross hundreds of thousands of miles in an instant. Traveling through the Milky Way without any means of teleportation, it was simply too difficult to find the next planet just by flying. Long Yu and the others did not have the time to waste. Moonsong's eyes lit up when she saw the Netherworld Dragon Blade. She didn't expect Long Yu to have such a battle weapon. Moonsong could feel the rich water element primordial beginning power in the Netherworld Dragon Blade from its aura alone. It was clearly an absolute beginning divine grade, one that had its own consciousness. Did you awaken this absolute beginning divine grade to the 12th level? Moonsong couldn't help but ask. Why don't you guess? Red Oriole giggled and ran into the space inside the Netherworld Dragon Blade with Moonsong. Long Yu is still so young. I don't believe he can awaken a 12th level absolute beginning divine grade. Red Oriole, your absolute beginning divine grade has only been awakened to the 9th level. Moonsong looked very confused. This is a battle weapon that has been smelted by the absolute beginning furnace. Little boy, let's go. Long Yu didn't hide this. They were all geniuses with the most potential in the human race and the demon race. There was no need to hide such things. Moonsong was finally shocked when she heard the words absolute beginning furnace. She re-examined the young man in front of her and felt that her previous guess about him was a little off. Moonsong had thought that Long Yu must have been lucky to be able to stall the demigods of the Ice God race in the battle against the Ice God race. But now it seemed that it wasn't something that could be achieved by luck alone. Of course, Moonsong had heard of the rumors about the absolute beginning furnace. It was said that it could only be created by building it in a space-time tunnel with infinite power. In other words, it required the burial of countless living beings. Even a demigod would not be able to create a furnace of primordium on purpose. That's amazing. Moonsong couldn't help but sigh. She admired Long Yu even more. Although Long Yu's martial arts realm was much lower than hers, now that he had come to the demigod college, did he still need to worry about his martial arts realm? The only thing he needed to worry about was crossing the threshold of demigod. Without a doubt, from the current situation, the possibility of Long Yu becoming a demigod was much higher than many people. After all, it was said that when Long Yu stalled the demigods of the alien races, he was only at the Emperor's level. By the time Long Yu became a 7th phase great ruler, he would be stronger than the majority of the others. There was no need to doubt this. Moonsong couldn't wait anymore. She couldn't wait to see how strong Long Yu was. I hope we can find the alien war criminal soon. Then I can see Long Yu in action. I hope he won't disappoint me. Moonsong thought to herself. The Void Nether Dragon Blade began to use the method of void travel. It could cross hundreds of thousands of kilometers in an instant. It traveled rapidly in the direction that Red Oriole had pointed out. After crossing dozens of times, the three finally felt the aura of a planet in front of them. Let's take a rest on that planet first. Then we'll use the space-time mark to teleport forward. It'll be faster that way. Anyway, I have a first-class honor badge. I don't need to wait for the space-time mark to teleport. After saying this, Long Yu let the Void Nether Dragon Blade fly toward the vicinity of the planet. Chapter 1369. Of course, it was impossible for a foreign war criminal to be hiding on this planet so coincidentally. The location of the foreign war criminal that Red Oriole had detected was even further away than this planet, so they still had to use the space-time imprint on this planet to continue forward. Since they could use the space-time imprint, they naturally used it directly. It was much faster than the Void Nether Dragon Blade. The Void Nether Dragon Blade quickly reached the outskirts of the planet. As expected, they encountered a defensive barrier like the one around Planet Bayou. It was only natural that there would be people standing guard outside the planet. Long Yu emerged from the Void Nether Dragon Blade and flashed his first-class honor badge. The Qing Luo clansmen guarding the planet immediately let them through. No one dared to stop someone with a first-class honor badge. The three of them quickly passed through the defensive barrier and arrived on the surface of the planet, landing in the middle of a rather flourishing city. There are quite a few people. Red Oriole, try to divine the location again and see how far away we are. I'll walk around and ask around about Long Zitian. Long Yu said to Red Oriole. Go ahead. Red Oriole nodded and prepared to continue divining the foreign war criminal's location. Although it took a lot of time, they had been moving forward for a while now, so they still had to do some divining to prevent any unforeseen event from happening. After all, Red Oriole's divination of the foreign war criminal had definitely alerted the other party. They would definitely take action. It would be best if they divined from time to throw the other party into confusion and grasp their general movements at all times. That foreign war criminal's divination ability isn't weak. It'll take some effort to fight him using divination. Moon's Song. Come with me and find Nin, Red Oriole said to Moon's Song. Moon's Song nodded. It was best to be completely focused when divining, so she naturally needed someone to protect her. As for Long Yu going out to scout for information, she obviously didn't need to accompany him. The two girls immediately went to the side to look for an inn. Long Yu squinted his eyes and looked around the central street of the city. Then, he first looked for a restaurant. If he wanted to inquire about the news, he naturally had to find some locals. Thus, if he were to look for people on the streets, the other party might not necessarily know. However, if he were to look for the owner of the restaurant, the other party would most likely know about the matter regarding Long Zaition. After all, it was the same in the demon race's territory. In the galaxies closer to the outer domain galaxy, most people would know the names and related deeds of the commanders of the outer domain galaxy. If he wanted to find someone to inquire about something, there was no need to use a first-class honor badge to suppress others. He could just casually give them some benefits. After all, Long Zaiqian's matter shouldn't be considered a secret in this region. Of course, it was also possible that Long Zaition's conduct was too low-key, so ordinary people didn't have a mind to pay attention to him. But no matter what, it was better to ask first to get an answer. Long Yu went to one restaurant after another, and asked the people he found were all restaurant owners or housekeepers. He gave each of them some pills and benefits. These pills were nothing to him, and he had long since stopped using them. However, to these restaurant owners and housekeepers, they were still quite valuable things. If they could get some information, why not? After going to about 10 restaurants, Long Yu finally found out a lot about Long Zaition. He also learned that Long Zaition was a relatively active person in the outer domain galaxy and the foreign races battlefield. First of all, Long Zaition was indeed rumored to have come from the Nine Nether clan. Then, there was no doubt that he was Long Yu's father. However, no one knew the exact truth about this. Long Yu also couldn't find out too much in-depth information from these restaurants. Secondly, Long Zaition was a leader of the Bitterwalker Alliance, and also a commander of the army on the battlefield. He was a 7th phase Great Ruler Realm cultivator, and his strength was extremely tyrannical. Moreover, he led the Ruler Realm army under his command to defeat wave after wave of the Fire God race's army. Recently, the foreign race's battlefield on the side of the human race was mainly against the Fire God race's attack. The other side's attack was extremely fierce, but the two sides were still in a stalemate. The other side couldn't make any further progress. They hadn't even been able to reach the territory of the human race, or even the outer domain galaxy. Of course, the Ice God race was in a hurry to make a breakthrough, so they wanted to raid the outer domain galaxy of the demon race's territory through the space-time tunnel. In the end, they failed miserably, and they even lost 2 demigods. The other demigod of the Desolate God race also met with misfortune. In a war between races, one careless mistake could cause serious consequences. Now that the Ice God race had lost 2 demigods and the Desolate God race had lost 1, they had to send demigods from other directions to support them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to withstand the demon race's counterattack. In this way, the defense line in other directions would be weakened, and the Ice God race would be busy on 2 sides. They wouldn't be able to launch any more invasions. Long Zaition was the commander of the Legion of Rulers. He was a level 7 Great Ruler. Usually, he was stationed in the first outer domain galaxy of the human race. The Legion of Rulers he led was one of the main forces of the human race's battlefield armies. This reminded Long Yu that in a war between races, even the Legion of Rulers was nothing but cannon fodder. Back in the space-time tunnel, the 4 Legion of Rulers of the Demon race, and the Legion of Rulers of the Ice God race and the Desolate God race were all completely wiped out. The losses were extremely heavy. Once a real demigod-level conflict broke out, all other existences were just ants, of course. The Legion of Rulers led by Long Zaition was definitely very strong. At least, it was much stronger than the Emperor Legion led by Shuel Luo, Su Yuqing, and Boss Xiong, stationed in the first outer domain galaxy. When the alien war criminal is found and this trial is completed, It's about time to go and take a look. Long Yu thought to himself and made a decision. Then, he went to find Red Oriole. After such a long time, Red Oriole's deductions should have come to a conclusion. An hour was enough for her to deduce more information about the alien war criminal. The two sides met at the space-time imprint teleportation matrix. Red Oriole and Moonsong were all smiles. When they saw Long Yu, they waved and greeted him. They seemed to be in a good mood. "How is it? You two look so happy. Have you deduced detailed information about the alien war criminal?" Long Yu asked with a smile. "Yes. After all, the alien war criminal escaped to human territory alone and had no one to rely on. Moonsong and I took turns to deduce his whereabouts. Finally, he lost the ability to resist, and we were able to deduce his exact location. Let's hurry over." As Red Oriole spoke, she came to Long Yu's side. Long Yu took out his first-class honor badge and used his special authority to request the Qing Luo clan to activate the teleportation matrix. Many of those waiting were rather envious of Long Yu. However, everyone knew what the first-class honor badge in Long Yu's hand represented. When the space-time imprint teleportation matrix lit up, Long Yu, Red Oriole, and Moonsong were teleported to another planet tens of millions of miles away. Dragon Pill Star. This was the planet that Red Oriole and Moonsong had taken turns to deduce where the alien war criminal was hiding. It had taken the alien war criminal half a month to cross a distance of tens of millions of kilometers. However, Long Yu and the others had used the space-time imprint teleportation matrix to easily reach this place. This place wasn't far from the outer galaxies. However, if they wanted to reach the outer galaxies, they could only use the space-time imprint teleportation matrix on the nearby Qing Luo galaxy's main planet. Otherwise, they would have to fly for at least 2 months. From the looks of it, the alien war criminal wanted to replenish his supplies on Dragon Pill Star before preparing to fly to the outer galaxies. As for the space-time imprint teleportation matrix, that fellow definitely wouldn't use it. Was there any need to say what would happen if alien races appeared in human territory? The alien war criminal wasn't stupid enough to court death. It doesn't seem impossible to flee to another race's territory. However, we'll have to conceal our presence and traces at all times. We can't let anyone discover us. Long Yu smiled as he walked out of the space-time imprint teleportation matrix. "What? Do you want to sneak into the alien territories to have some fun?" Red Oriole giggled. "Not really. However, I've discovered that the human domain isn't invulnerable. Other races can still sneak in. I'm sure it's the same for other races. This discovery might prove useful in the future," Long Yu said, narrowing his eyes. Moonsong didn't know what he meant, but Red Oriole did. After all, they were going to develop in the Void Galaxy in the future. They might have to interact with many alien races. There is no harm in familiarizing themselves with them. "I just don't know what race the alien war criminal we're looking for is," Red Oriole said curiously. Red Oriole was rather curious. "When I was divining, I really couldn't deduce anything at all. Everything about the other party's identity and appearance was blurry. Only the location information could be deduced. We'll know once we find them. Now that we're close, it should be easier to divine their location, right? Keep up the good work, you two. Let's head out and fight our way in." Long Yu laughed. Seeing that he was close to completing his mission, he was naturally in a good mood. Red Oriole and Moonsong nodded, then continued to gather their divining power. Not far from the space-time imprint teleportation matrix, the two girls began to divine their target's location. In such a short time, the alien war criminal couldn't run too far even if he wanted to. As for the head-on battle after they found him, Red Oriole and Moonsong should be enough. Long Yu only needed to watch from the sidelines. As for the battlefield merit points, it didn't matter if Long Yu got a little less. In any case, he wasn't particularly in need of battlefield merit points. The entire mission's reward of 3 million battlefield merit points wasn't enough to buy anything useful to Long Yu. As the two girls gathered their divining power, the location of the alien war criminal became clearer and clearer. "Come with me this way. It's not far away." Red Oriole's expression quickly turned serious. She took the lead and flew toward a mountain range outside the city. Chapter 1370. The rolling hills were densely covered with trees. Long Yu's group of 3 flew all the way into the dense forest. Then, Long Yu blessed the 3 of them with the light of equalization. Red Oriole had now cultivated balance control to the 5th realm. She had made great progress, and her spiritual sense perception was much stronger than before. Coupled with the tenfold amplification of balanced light, she was able to sense the detailed situation within a radius of 200 kilometers in an instant. This perception range was comparable to that of consort Yu's in the primordial alien ruins. However, at that time, the primordial alien ruins were filled with metal origin power storms, which blocked her perception. In that situation, with Red Oriole's current state, she could only sense what was happening within a radius of 30 to 40 kilometers. Therefore, there was still quite a gap between Red Oriole and consort Yu. At this moment, in this dense forest, Red Oriole could clearly sense the situation within a radius of 200 kilometers, which was more than enough for her to search. Of course, this mountain range was still quite vast, so it would be rather difficult to search the entire area. While Red Oriole was searching with her spiritual sense, Moonsong was using her powers of deduction to analyze the foreign war criminal. The non-humankind war criminals were hiding in this dense forest. They should be intercepting some human or spirit creature cultivators who entered this forest, gaining enough cultivation resources from them, then running away. This plan was very normal, and Long Yu and the other 2 could guess it with a single guess. Unfortunately, they had already alerted the enemy when they were deducing, and they didn't know if the other party had set up an ambush. No matter what, finding the other party's location was the most important thing right now. Under Moonsong's deduction, the other party's location kept changing, and the power of deduction constantly resisted her. However, it did not stop Moonsong from deducing the other party's location. After all, Moonsong was from a demigod academy. Her strength surpassed that of an ordinary 3rd-stage ruler. Her opponent, the foreign war criminal, was at most a 5th-stage ruler. It was very likely that he was still a 4th-stage ruler. Be careful. When I was divining, I sensed quite a few auras similar to those of the non-human war criminals. They are scattered in this dense forest and are very far away from each other. Moonsong's expression quickly changed as she said in a deep voice, "There's no need for you to say that. I've also sensed it. There are 2 weak auras on the left. Although they're weak, they're similar to the alien war criminal's aura. Let's go and take a look." Red Oriole's expression also turned solemn. The training mission they had received was to deal with a foreign war criminal, but now, more of the same aura had appeared. The situation was definitely not normal. Long Yu followed behind the 2 women, quickly flying towards the place where Red Oriole had discovered the aura. Soon, they landed in a dense forest. The 3 of them discovered that the place where they had landed was like a swamp. It was very humid and full of mosquitoes. In the swamp, there was a gray fluorescent light that penetrated through the muddy water and appeared in front of the 3 of them. That ball of fluorescent light, be careful. When Red Oriole saw the ball of fluorescent light, she immediately became cautious. Moonsong and Long Yu were the same. Even Long Yu could clearly sense the alien aura emanating from the ball of fluorescent light at such a close distance. It was the same aura as the alien on the training seal. It was the same aura, just slightly weaker. No matter what, let's get rid of it first. As soon as Red Oriole finished speaking, the 6 demonic blood wings on her back unfurled. Although the ball of fluorescent light didn't give her any sense of danger, it still contained the aura of a foreign race. She had no choice but to be cautious. She had already awakened the 6 demonic blood wings to the 9th level. As soon as she unfurled her wings, the power of blood-colored divine characters enveloped her entire body, forming a sturdy defensive barrier. Although Red Oriole was only a 2nd-stage ruler, this defensive barrier was something that even a 3rd-stage or 4th-stage ruler wouldn't be able to easily break through. Even a fifth-stage ruler would need to spend some time to break through it. Under the protection of this defensive barrier, Red Oriole gradually floated closer to the ball of fluorescent light in the swamp. She then raised her hand, and a blood-colored sword light tore through the air, shooting towards the ball of fluorescent light in the swamp. Puffed, puffed, puffed. The blood-colored sword light continuously pierced into the swamp, directly piercing through the ball of fluorescent light. Then, Red Oriole discovered that the fluorescent light had exploded into a puddle of gray liquid, sprinkling all over the swamp. Then, the entire ball of fluorescent light began to weaken. This situation surprised Red Oriole a little. She originally thought that this might be an ambush set up by a foreign race, and that attacking it would attract some danger. But now, it seemed that there was no danger at all. This fluorescent light can't be a descendant of that foreign war criminal, right? On the other hand, Moonsong's brows were slightly furrowed as she observed the gray liquid splattering everywhere. After all, she had spent a year at the Demigod Academy and had most likely seen many foreign races. Her understanding of the foreign races was much greater than that of Long Yu and Red Oriole. This speculation made Red Oriole feel disgusted. She immediately flapped her wings and flew back to Long Yu and Moonsong's side. If it really is a descendant of that foreign war criminal, just how many of them are there in this forest? Red Oriole's expression became very unsightly. Are we going to eliminate them one by one? I feel that we can ignore these foreign fluorescent lights for now. We should first find that foreign war criminal and eliminate him from the source. Otherwise, I'm afraid that there will only be more and more of these fluorescent lights. Long Yu suggested. That's right. The location that I've deduced is about 400 to 500 kilometers from here. Let's fly over first and find that foreign war criminal. Moonsong also nodded. The two girls both felt disgusted by the gray liquid splattering from the explosion of the alien fluorescent light. It was impossible for them to observe it carefully. Long Yu, on the other hand, glanced at the scene after the alien fluorescent light exploded. He found that the gray liquid seemed to still be alive after it sank into the swamp. Little void burial. Without any hesitation, Long Yu directly used the Void Spirit Dragon Blade's most powerful attack and bombarded the swamp with Void Burial. The terrifying water absolute beginning power burst out instantly, bursting up and annihilating the swamp into nothingness. Even the gray liquid from the fluorescent light of the alien race was annihilated. Only then did Long Yu feel slightly relieved. He turned around and left with the two girls. The two girls agreed with what Long Yu had done. After all, one had to remove the roots when cutting the weeds. It was definitely a very dangerous situation to keep the seeds of the alien races in the human territory. If they were allowed to grow, they would be a great threat to the entire Dragon Pill planet. At least before the people on the Dragon Pill planet realized it, no one knew how fast it would grow once it grew. This dense forest seemed to be a relatively popular arena on the Dragon Pill planet. There are not many people in this dense forest. Once the arena opened, many people would swarm into this forest. It was hard to say what they would encounter then. In short, since they had accepted the Experience Mark mission, they had to deal with the aftermath. They had to kill the alien war criminal first, then slowly clear the alien fluorescent light. They could not leave any behind. The three of them moved forward quickly and soon got closer to the alien war criminal's aura. As they went deeper into the dense forest, the number of alien fluorescent lights that Moonsong deduced and Red Oriole sensed increased. They were scattered all over the forest like stars in the sky. So, this alien war criminal came to this forest to spread his offspring. Luckily, we arrived in time. Otherwise, Long Yu felt a chill down his spine just thinking about it. This alien war criminal clearly knew that no one would come to this forest, so he chose this place to spread his offspring. There were indeed countless hidden dangers in this world. Ordinary cultivators would not find them at all. Usually, when something like this happened, the demigod colleges or some other special cultivators would take care of it. Ordinary cultivators would not know anything about the alien races at all. Even if humans and demons had secretly formed an alliance with a certain alien race, only a few people knew about it. Even the people in the demigod colleges did not know which alien race it was. Many things could only be learned when one reached that level. This had always been the case in this world. Now, Long had only learned about these things after entering the demigod colleges. The three of them were getting closer and closer to the alien war criminal. There were more and more alien fluorescent lights around them. It seemed that the alien war criminal had done too many things in this place. It's right in front. Get ready to fight. Red Oriole directly sensed the enemy's presence with her soul sense. She spread her 6 demon blood wings and dove into the forest. Moonsong did not hesitate either. Her whole body lit up with a blue brilliance, as intoxicating as the stars in the night sky. She turned into a sharp blade and stabbed straight at the alien war criminal she sensed in the forest. Long Yu followed behind the two girls. Using the Book of Darkness, he transformed into a gentle breeze and landed in the dense forest. Then he gazed ahead. What he saw was a ball made of gray liquid, lying limply on the ground, emitting a terrifying aura. It was the outsider war criminal. However, Long Yu did not expect that this foreign race war criminal was actually formed from liquid. Within the sphere, there were countless tiny silver lines, just like the blood vessels of humans and demons. However, what flowed within was a gray liquid and contained an extremely strange power. Long Yu had never seen this alien race before. Red Oriole, of course, had never seen it before. Even Moonsong had never seen it before. Be careful, Moonsong roared. Countless starry swords materialized between her hands and stabbed at the gray ball of water in an instant. Chapter 1371. Moonsong had comprehended the power of the star divine characters, one of the light-type divine characters. Moreover, it was one of the most destructive of all light-type divine characters. At this moment, the power of the star divine characters transformed into star sword shadows. The starry blue sword light instantly descended and bombarded the gray ball of water. The outsider war criminal's strength had actually increased, reaching the level of a 5th stage ruler. However, it seemed to be in a relatively weak state. Even when it saw the two women attacking it, it did not have much of a reaction. Long Yu could clearly see that the alien war criminal in the form of a gray water ball, when facing the attacks of the two women, had only shrunk its body slightly. Within the silver, vein-like things in its body, the gray liquid began to flow intensely, and then condensed into a layer of gray divine character power on the surface of its body. This layer of gray divine characters was the defensive technique it used. Compared to Moonsong's Star Sword Shadow, it was completely inconspicuous. However, it was precisely such an inconspicuous defensive technique that when the Starlight's sword shadows landed on it, they were all blocked by it. After all, it was a 5th stage ruler. This outsider war criminal's martial realm was 2 stages higher than Moonsong's. Even if Moonsong was a student of the Demigod Institute, it was impossible for her to completely suppress it. No wonder. This training mission requires the cooperation of 3 3rd-stage rulers. However, with Moonsong and Red Oriole here, our combat strength is definitely not lacking. Moreover, I can also be of use. Long Yu thought to himself. In the blink of an eye, he saw Red Oriole's blood-colored sword light suddenly rise up, cutting through the void and landing on the outsider war criminal's defensive divine characters. After enduring the star, sword shadows, and blood-colored sword light, the outsider war criminal's gray divine characters finally could not hold on any longer and completely shattered. 6 wings of demon blood. Explosive kill. Red Oriole did not stop after breaking through the outsider's defensive power. She immediately used her next powerful technique, a technique that awakened the 6 wings of demon blood to the 8th stage. The blood-colored sword light instantly exploded, and a terrifying destructive power instantly exploded around the outsider war criminal. As soon as she used this move, the alien war criminal seemed to take her seriously. The entire body of the gray water ball rapidly swelled up, and the power of spatial divine characters flickered. In the blink of an eye, it carried the alien war criminal away from this place. After all, the alien war criminal wasn't in a good state right now, and Moonsong and Red Oriole weren't weak either. It didn't want to fight them head-on. However, with Long Yu by his side, how could he give the other party a chance to escape? Ancient Dragonbone Tower, Absolute Space Domain. Long Yu raised his hand and took out the ancient Dragon Skeleton Tower. Then, he instantly set up his Absolute Space Domain. A layer of Absolute Space Domain enveloped a radius of tens of miles, isolating everyone. The power of the spatial divine characters on the foreign race war criminal's body instantly vanished. This was because it originally wanted to directly teleport hundreds of miles away, but now that it was blocked by the Absolute Space Domain, it instantly lost its connection to space hundreds of miles away. Its teleportation was interrupted. Hunters of the Netherworld, reinforcements. Long Yu wasn't willing to just watch from the sidelines. He raised his hand and formed 4 hunters of the Netherworld, then had them fly directly towards the alien war criminal. He raised his hand and performed the 3rd slash of the Heart Saber. The 4 hunters performed the 3rd slash of the Heart Saber at the same time. 12 spiritual sword lights descended from the sky, instantly landing on the head of the alien war criminal, causing his mental state to worsen. Although Long Yu's martial realm was too low at the moment, and he couldn't trap the other party in an illusion, it still had a significant impact on the other party's mental state. Seeing Long Yu's actions, Red Oriole and Moonsong naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. It just so happened that the other party's teleportation had been interrupted, and he was probably in a daze. If they didn't kill him now, when would they? The blood-red divine characters and the starry divine characters transformed into a fierce blood-red beam of light, sweeping towards the non-humankind war criminal, while the starry divine characters condensed and merged into a storm, forming a starry storm that instantly swallowed the non-humankind war criminal up. The 3 of them attacked at the same time, their might astonishing. However, when Long Yu looked at the alien war criminal, he noticed that the other party didn't seem to panic at all. This situation made Long Yu frown slightly. Suddenly, Long Yu felt a wave of alarm in his heart and immediately cried out, "Be careful. It's a trap." This alien war criminal wasn't someone to be trifled with. Since he had sensed Red Oriole's divination abilities in advance and knew that someone was targeting him, how could he not have made any preparations? That was impossible. Previously, they had been guessing that the alien war criminal might have prepared some sort of formation or trap in advance to deal with them. They hadn't appeared until now, but that was only because the other party didn't think that the time was right and hadn't activated it yet. Now, Red Oriole and Moonsong, including Long Yu, were attacking with all their might. All 3 of them had neglected their own defenses. This was the perfect time for the other party to activate the trap. Just as Long Yu cried out in surprise, Long Yu instantly hid in the internal space of the ancient Dragonbone Tower. He then activated the 9 nether screen of the ancient Dragonbone Tower and covered the surface of the ancient Dragonbone Tower with Revelation level 9 nether divine text. The defensive capabilities of the 9 underworld heavenly screen were absolutely incredible. After all, it was a top-tier, unbounded battle weapon, the ancient Dragonbone Tower. Furthermore, Long Yu had already fused with it to the level of Spirit Fuse. Therefore, the defensive capabilities of the 9 underworld heavenly screen instantly increased by 5 times. However, Red Oriole and Moonsong were in a rather sorry state. The attacks launched by the 2 of them just happened to land on the non-human war criminals. Before they could check the results, they were suddenly attacked by the trap magic formation. From beneath the dense forest, countless amounts of gray liquid burst out of the ground, condensing into numerous water arrows, directly shooting towards the 2 women. Wherever the arrows passed, even the air was corroded, showing how terrifying their destructive power was. Red Oriole immediately switched from defense to offense. She retracted her 6 demonic blood wings, and her entire body was covered in blood-colored divine runes. Moonsong, on the other hand, took out an unbounded relic. It was a starry disk, and as soon as it was taken out, a layer of starlight formed around Moon Song's entire body. The water arrows formed by the corrosive gray liquid instantly hit the defensive barriers of the two women. Immediately afterward, their respective defensive barriers were gradually disintegrated and dissipated by these water arrows. The water arrows formed by the gray liquid contained unparalleled corrosive power, and the two women's defensive measures were unable to withstand it. Even Long Yu was attacked by countless water arrows formed by the gray liquid. Even a 9 underworld screen could not withstand it, and was soon mostly corroded. Long Yu could only keep using the 9 underworld screen. After all, there was a limit to how many times the ancient dragon skeleton pagoda could use the 9 underworld screen. Within a short period of time, it could only use it 5 times in a row. The alien war criminal had long since prepared a trap to catch all the pursuers in one fell swoop. It had not made a move yet, partly to lower the vigilance of Long Yu and the others, and partly because it was not sure if the 3 of them were the only ones chasing it. It had to be on guard against others hiding nearby. Now that it was confirmed that there were only Long Yu and the others, it called for someone to activate the trapping formation and attack. When the trapping formation was activated, the alien war criminal did not remain idle. Although it was trapped by the absolute space domain and could not escape, its gray ball of water body gradually rose into the air. Immediately after, the power of countless gray divine runes emanated from its body, rapidly condensing into several gray bubbles. These gray bubbles appeared so quickly that Moon Song and Red Oriole could not react in time. The two girls were still dealing with the gray liquid water arrows bursting out of the ground. They were already very flustered and were immediately enveloped by the gray bubbles. The alien war criminal used a control technique, using the gray bubbles to envelop Red Oriole and Moon Song, making it impossible for the two girls to escape. Next, the alien war criminal seemed to be very interested in the ancient dragon skeleton pagoda on Long Yu's side and flew toward Long Yu's side. Trapped in the gray bubbles, the two girls were temporarily out of danger. However, the bubbles were filled with a viscous gray liquid, which was extremely disgusting. It also restricted their movements. These gray bubbles, if we don't think of a way to break them soon, the gray liquid will completely wrap around our bodies, and we won't be able to move. Moon Song and Red Oriole could naturally see this, so what they needed to do next was to break out of their respective gray bubbles as soon as possible. As for Long Yu, Red Oriole was not too worried. After all, Long Yu had more ways to protect himself than she did. Long Yu stayed inside the ancient dragon skeleton pagoda, watching the alien war criminal approach. Meanwhile, the 9 underworld heavenly screen of the ancient dragon skeleton pagoda had basically been corroded 5 times by the gray water arrows. Long Yu could not bear to see the ancient dragon skeleton pagoda corrode even the slightest bit. Hence, the next step was to consider leaving the ancient dragon skeleton pagoda. Book of Shadows turned into nothingness. Just as the alien war criminal approached the ancient dragon skeleton pagoda and was about to attack, Long Yu took the opportunity to put away the ancient dragon skeleton pagoda and turn into nothingness. The gigantic ancient dragon bone pagoda disappeared just like that. Even Long Yu, who was within it, had disappeared along with it. Such a strange scene caused the foreign race war criminal to be clearly stunned. It even tried to sense Long Yu's existence with its spiritual senses, but unfortunately, Long Yu had turned into nothingness. Only demigod-level experts could find him. It was impossible for anyone else to find him. The gray water arrows continued to break out of the ground and explode into the dense forest, corroding the entire forest into a mess. Long Yu turned into nothingness, and with his balanced control of the secret martial arts technique, he accurately dodged every gray water arrow. Then, with extreme speed, he approached Moon Song and Red Oriole. Immediately after, Long Yu came out of nothingness and activated the 9 underworld paths at lightning speed. Two nine underworld paths extended and landed on the gray bubbles around Moonsong and Red Oriole. The power of the spatial divine glyphs contained in the bubbles was almost instantly disintegrated by the power of the 9 underworld paths. Chapter 1372. Long Yu's path of the 9 underworld had the ability to disintegrate all kinds of spatial divine characters. Even water-type absolute beginning power couldn't escape the disintegration of the path of the 9 underworld. This was the power that came from the essence of space. The path of the 9 underworld had the unique ability to disintegrate the power of spatial divine characters after fusing with the essence of space. At that moment, the path of the 9 underworld was unleashed, and the spatial power contained within the 2 gray bubbles was almost instantly disintegrated. Then, the 2 women unleashed their respective techniques. The power of the blood-red divine runes and the starry divine runes erupted and directly broke through the 2 gray bubbles. When the foreign war criminal finally discovered Long Yu and turned around to attack Long Yu, Red Oriole and Moonsong were already standing beside Long Yu. Do it! Red Oriole and Moonsong attacked again. Blood-colored divine characters and star divine characters instantly exploded. The 2 women's previous attacks had been blocked by the foreign war criminal. Now, the 2 women's attacks were even stronger than before. Red Oriole had already awakened the 6 demonic blood wings to the 9th level. At this moment, the 6 demonic blood wings had transformed into 6 blood-colored blades. With an overwhelming momentum, they slashed toward the foreign war criminal. As for Moonsong, she finally unleashed an even stronger technique. She raised her hand and took out a divine absolute beginning item. It was a starry blue crescent wheel. Countless starry lines appeared in the air. Then, these lines streaked across the sky like meteors and fell towards the foreign war criminal. The techniques that the 2 women used were even stronger than before. Even a 5th stage ruler might not be able to block them. However, even if the foreign war criminal couldn't block them, he could still escape. In order to prevent him from escaping, Long Yu didn't hesitate. He raised his hand and unleashed his innate mystique, sphere of the 9 underworld. This was a technique that he had learned not long ago. It was the mysterious 8th mystique. It was something that the 9 underworld tablet had condensed by absorbing the shattered 9 underworld realm. Long Yu had tried out the effects of the sphere of the 9 underworld. However, he had no clue as to why it would appear. In any case, if Long Yu wanted to control that foreign war criminal, the innate ability of the ball of 9 underworlds was the only way. Other methods like the hand of 9 underworlds and the 8 trigrams suppressing the heavens were completely useless now. After all, Long Yu was only a lower-level dominator, while his opponent was a 5th-level dominator. Even if it was the ball of 9 underworlds, it only had a little bit of the aura of the 9 underworlds tablet, so it might have a little effect on the opponent. Under such circumstances, even the slightest impact was enough. Long Yu's main combat power still came from Red Oriole and Moonsong. At most, Long Yu could only hold them back. In fact, with his current cultivation, holding them back was already very difficult. When the ball of 9 underworlds appeared, a wave of destruction rank 9 underworlds divine characters burst out, completely covering the foreign war criminal. The sticky destruction rank 9 underworlds divine characters enveloped him. He still remembered that when Long Yu had used the ball of 9 underworlds to deal with a 2-star emperor-level ice god race foreign war criminal, he had been able to completely suppress and devour the ball of 9 underworlds. Moreover, it had been able to strengthen the ball of 9 underworlds. Unfortunately, the foreign war criminal was a 5th-level dominator. If Long Yu was alone, he wouldn't be a match for the foreign war criminal. Therefore, when Long Yu used the ball of 9 underworlds, the sticky binding power only had a slight effect on the foreign war criminal, slowing down the circulation of power within his body by 30%. It was impossible to completely entangle and devour the non-humankind war criminal. Being able to slow down the foreign war criminal's circulation speed by 30% was already very impressive. If it were any other lower-level dominator, they wouldn't be able to do this. let alone 30%. Even 10% would be an extravagant hope for other lower-level dominators. It should be known that the foreign war criminal in front of him was a powerful existence at the 5th phase Great Ruler realm. Long Yu's other techniques had no effect on him at all. Only the 9 underworld sphere, the innate divine ability fruit, which contained a bit of the 9 underworld steel's aura, was able to slow him down by 30%. Of course, under such circumstances, even a 30% reduction in speed could be said to be a fatal negative impact on the foreign war criminal. After all, with Long Yu delaying him like this, it was impossible for the foreign war criminal to dodge Red Oriole and Moonsong's attacks. He could only face them head-on. The 6 blood-colored blades formed by the 6 demonic blood wings and the meteors formed by the stars and crescent moons landed on the foreign war criminal's slowed-down body in the blink of an eye. Terrifying power instantly erupted. The blades swept across, and the meteors exploded. The foreign war criminal's gray ball of water was instantly riddled with holes. The gray divine characters that the foreign war criminal had formed in a hurry were instantly shattered. Gray liquid splattered everywhere in the dense forest. It was sticky and stinky. It was extremely disgusting. However, Red Oriole and Moonsong couldn't care less about how disgusting it was. If they didn't quickly finish off the foreign war criminal, he might have some other tricks up his sleeve. It would be terrible if they let him escape. Kill. The 6 demonic blood wings behind Red Oriole's back instantly transformed into 6 blood-colored chains. They instantly extended out and bound the foreign war criminal, rendering him completely immobile. As for Moonsong, while Red Oriole was completely restraining the foreign war criminal, the crescent moon wheel in her hand suddenly erupted with starlight. Resplendent blue starlight fell from the sky like a waterfall. 10th level awakening. Long Yu's heart skipped a beat when he saw this move. Moonsong had actually awakened the absolute beginning divine grade crescent moon wheel to the 10th level. Moreover, this was only what she had shown so far. No one knew how many levels Moonsong and the crescent moon wheel had awakened to. Perhaps it was only the 10th level, but it could also be the 11th level. Of course, she probably hadn't reached the 12th level yet. After all, the crescent moon wheel hadn't developed its own consciousness yet. This was something Long Yu could still sense. The crescent moon wheel, which had awakened at the 10th level, gathered the power of the star divine characters and transformed into a waterfall of starlight. It fell from the sky and landed on the foreign war criminal who was restrained by Red Oriole's blood-colored chains. The starlight waterfall had an extremely powerful purifying power. It was especially effective against shadow-type divine characters. Coincidentally, the foreign war criminal's divine characters were of the shadow type. The power of the gray divine characters was of the shadow type and was highly corrosive. Now that the starlight waterfall had completely targeted it, it couldn't resist at all. Blue starlight erupted from Long Yu's eyes. The power of the stars condensed into a waterfall that rushed down, shattering the foreign war criminal's body and quickly disintegrating it. Seeing that it couldn't hold on any longer, the foreign war criminal's body suddenly bulged. Then, countless gray tentacles extended from his body. These gray tentacles surged toward the starlight waterfall above him. Then, they were completely destroyed by the power of the star divine characters. These gray tentacles are its innate theurgy fruit. This guy has reached a dead end. He's even sacrificing the innate theurgy fruit. It looks like we'll have to fight him to the death. Long Yu thought to himself, if he could see that, Red Oriole and Moonsong could as well. Moonsong's starlight waterfall could have completely annihilated the foreign war criminal and killed him. However, the foreign war criminal was willing to sacrifice an innate theurgy fruit rather than die like this. Although the destruction of the innate theurgy fruit would greatly affect his strength, he had no other choice. The countless gray tentacles were the main body of the innate theurgy fruit. They had been sent out of the small world to resist the waterfall of starlight. In this way, The main body of the innate theurgy fruit was constantly being destroyed, but the foreign war criminal had managed to preserve his life with great difficulty. Just preserving his life wasn't much use. If the foreign war criminal didn't think of something, he would definitely die in the end. So, since he had already fought once, he would definitely fight a second time. Before Moonsong and Red Oriole could react, gray skeletons once again emerged from the foreign war criminal's body. These gray skeletons were the main body of the other innate theurgy fruit. The gray skeleton was activated and directly swept towards Long Yu and the other two. The terrifying and dense aura caused the three of them to be intimidated to a certain extent. He's actually using the main body of the innate theurgy fruit to fight. This guy seems to be going all out. Be careful. If we destroy the innate theurgy fruit, it'll be severely injured. Red Oriole and Moonsong were extremely calm. They knew that since the foreign war criminal was going all out, there was no need to fight him head-on. Breaking his limbs first would make things much easier. For the foreign war criminal, the innate theurgy fruit was equivalent to 4 limbs. One of the innate theurgy fruits had already been destroyed by the waterfall of starlight. Although there were still some remnants left, they weren't far from being completely destroyed. Now that the foreign war criminal was using the main body of the innate theurgy fruit to attack, it was much easier for everyone to deal with. Of course, it was also much more dangerous. After all, the power of the main body of the innate theurgy fruit was much stronger than just using the innate theurgy fruit. At this moment, the gray skeleton's destructive power had already reached the level of 6th-stage sovereign. Even Red Oriole and Moonsong wouldn't be able to escape unscathed if they were swept by the gray skeletons, let alone Long Yu. Long Yu didn't dare to be careless when facing the violent foreign war criminal. He immediately retreated and activated the Book of Shadows, turning into nothingness and hiding far away. Long Yu really couldn't interfere in a head-on battle of this level. Even restraining the foreign war criminal was very dangerous. He had no choice but to act cautiously and ensure his own safety before acting. As for the gray skeletons, he would leave them to Red Oriole and Moonsong to deal with. Chapter 1373. Long Yu had retreated far away, but he was constantly paying attention to the situation on the battlefield. If there was anything he could do to help, he would immediately take action. Meanwhile, Moonsong and Red Oriole were fighting the foreign war criminal head-on. Countless gray skeletons kept breaking out of the foreign war criminal's pocket world, sweeping towards the two women. The two women each used their own methods. Blood divine runes turned into blades, and starry divine runes formed a storm, continuously bombarding the gray skeletons to pieces. However, the innate fruit of magic's main body was extremely large. There was no telling how many gray skeletons there were on this side, and the countless gray tentacles that were fighting against the starry waterfall were also continuously bombarding them. It would be difficult to completely shatter the foreign war criminal's main body in a short amount of time. Even so, the two sides had only clashed for a few breaths of time before a portion of the innate fruit of magic's main body was destroyed, inflicting severe damage on the foreign war criminal. This greatly weakened the foreign war criminal's battle prowess. However, he was still fighting with the innate fruit of magic's main body, and his cultivation was much higher than Red Oriole's and Moonsong's. At this moment, the two women were feeling quite strained. Moonsong and Red Oriole's positions were constantly being pushed back by the foreign war criminal's continuous bombardment of gray skeletons. Of course, the two women couldn't accompany the foreign war criminal in his madness. Red Oriole's previous innate fruit of magic's main body had already been damaged, and it had yet to fully recover. Unless absolutely necessary, she definitely wouldn't use the innate fruit of magic's main body to fight. At this moment, the foreign war criminal was in a completely berserk state. Gray tentacles and gray skeletons were all around him, and the two innate fruit of magic's main bodies had been thrown out at the same time. Let alone Long Yu, even the two women couldn't get close to him at all. We can't drag this out for too long. Red Oriole, I'm going to attack now. Cover me for a bit. Moonsong's expression finally froze. Killing intent began to radiate from her eyes, as if she had finally decided to use an even more powerful killing move. After all, if things continued like this, the situation might change if they dragged things out for too long. She had to get rid of the foreign war criminal before the situation changed. Otherwise, it would be very troublesome. Upon hearing this, Red Oriole nodded. The 6 demonic blood wings on her back unfurled. Blood-colored divine characters instantly filled the air, transforming into a blood-colored mist that rumbled forward, enveloping the entire space around them and enveloping the foreign war criminal within. In the blood-red mist emitted by the 6 demon blood wings, the outsider war criminal's mind began to become a little scattered. This was a type of mental attack, but the effect was not strong. At most, it would only have a slight mental interference effect. However, one of the advantages of this move was that the effect of mental interference would not be weakened even when facing an existence with a higher cultivation base than the user. Therefore, at this moment, the foreign war criminal's mind was disrupted and he was no longer as focused as before. This was the perfect opportunity for Moonsong to erupt. Starlight flowed all over Moonsong's body, and the crescent wheel in her hand instantly erupted with dazzling starlight. Then, it transformed into a gigantic astral sword aura that tore through the air. The foreign war criminal did not have much time to react. The gigantic astral sword aura instantly tore through the air and slashed at the gray waterball's flesh, completely shattering all the gray bones along the way. Starlight Sky Slash. This was the awakening skill that Moonsong had awakened to the 11th level of the crescent wheel. The moment she attacked, its power was earth-shattering and imposing. The foreign war criminal could not even resist for a moment. In that instant, Long Yu felt a little fascinated. He could not help but want to awaken a divine-grade absolute beginning skill. However, he also knew that to awaken the Netherworld Dragon Blade, he needed more than just a thought. He needed more time and more cultivation resources to achieve it. Even someone as powerful as Moonsong would need at least a year or two to awaken the Netherworld Dragon Blade to the 11th level. This kind of thing cannot be done quickly. However, Long Yu's Netherworld Dragon Blade already had its own consciousness. As long as it awakened to the 7th or 8th level, its power would be comparable to Moonsong's crescent wheel awakening to the 11th level. Therefore, Long Yu was quite confident in himself. After all, not everyone had the chance to encounter the absolute beginning furnace and have the ability to put their own combat weapons into it for smelting. To put it bluntly, Long Yu's Netherworld Dragon Blade was considered one of the strongest divine-grade absolute beginning weapons in the entire human clan and monster clan's territories. It was in existence at the peak of the absolute beginning realm. The Starlight Sky breaking slash slashed down with extreme speed, landing on the prisoner's body. The terrifying starlight energy instantly tore apart the prisoner's already injured body, and the starlight sword light directly pierced through the prisoner's body, causing the gray sticky liquid to splash in all directions. Puddles of corrosive liquid corroded the surrounding flora and giant trees, creating a messy scene. However, Moonsong did not let her guard down at all. That was because the foreign war criminal's life force was extremely tenacious. Even though his body was cut into pieces, he did not lose his life. These foreign races are too strange. I wonder where the core of their power is, Moonsong murmured with a slight frown. Leave it to me. At that moment, Long Yu realized what Moonsong was worrying about. He had a way to solve the problem, so he immediately appeared and brandished the unending high-grade combat weapon, Duankong's Sacred Spring. The Duankong Sacred Spring transformed into a light blue void, slicing blade that instantly appeared in the foreign war criminal's body. Then, it naturally found the core of his power. This was the best part of Long Yu's void slicing strike. It could automatically find the enemy's weak point and launch a targeted attack. When Moonsong saw where the two light blue void slicing blades had appeared, she immediately seized the opportunity. With a gentle wave of her hand, two beams of white divine runes condensed in her hands. Grade 1 God Formation. When Long Yu saw this, he immediately recognized his opponent's technique. It was rumored that a Grade 1 God Formation was a prerequisite for one to become a demigod. If one did not comprehend a Grade 1 God Formation, it was almost impossible for one to become a demigod. Fortunately, Long Yu had obtained a lot of cultivation methods for Grade 1 God Formations from the headquarters of the army on the battlefield. He only needed to pick one or two of them to practice. In addition, the power of a Grade 1 God Formation was also extremely shocking. Take Moonsong, for example. Although the two beams of white divine runes were not as powerful as her awakening skill, Starry Sky Slicing, it was still enough to kill the foreign war criminal. These two moves allowed Long Yu and Red Oriole to see just how powerful Moonsong was. If Red Oriole were to fight against Moonsong now, she would definitely not be a match for her. After all, Moonsong had been in the Demigod Academy for a year and had more training resources than her. Seeing Moonsong, Red Oriole, and Long Yu felt that they had not come to the Demigod Academy for nothing. They believed that Moonsong couldn't have been so powerful when she had just entered the Demigod Academy last year. She had become so powerful in just a year. It was obvious how much training in the Demigod Academy could improve a cultivator. As the power of the Grade 1 God Formation exploded, two beams of white divine runes surged out and hit the foreign war criminal's power core. The enemy's power core immediately exploded, just like the dantian of a human or the demon core of a demon. Once the foreign war criminal's power core was destroyed, it meant that all of his cultivation would be destroyed. There was no need to say more about what would happen if that happened. There was no way Moonsong would let this guy go. No matter what, the foreign war criminals were irreconcilable conflicts between the human race and the demon race. Killing the foreign races was a matter of course. After the enemy's power core was destroyed, the foreign war criminal could not even self-destruct. Moonsong and Red Oriole attacked together. Blood-colored divine runes and starry divine runes exploded, directly blowing the foreign war criminal into smithereens. The entire scene was a mess. There had been a dense forest around them, but now it had been razed to the ground. There were even many deep pits in the ground, showing how intense the battle had been. A battle at the level of a great ruler could easily cause great destruction on an ordinary planet. For example, they were fighting fiercely in the wilderness right now, but they had already destroyed a radius of over 5 kilometers. It was a scene of devastation after a great battle. It was a ghastly sight. This was still relatively light. If they had deliberately wanted to destroy a planet, great sovereigns could easily destroy the entire forest. It's not our turn to rest yet. We have to clear out those foreign glows. Let's split up. If anyone is in danger, call for help immediately, Moonsong said in a low voice. Then, she nodded at Long Yu and Red Oriole. Of course, the two of them knew that these were the aftermath that had to be dealt with. They agreed and then split up into 3 different directions. If they encountered any foreign glows, they would immediately destroy them. These were the descendants left behind by the foreign clan war criminals. If they were not cleaned up, they might cause great trouble to the Dragon Elixir Star. As long as the 3 of them were careful, this situation could be avoided. Before they separated, Long Yu had cast the light of equalization on the 3 of them, increasing their spiritual sense perception by 10 times. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for the 3 of them to miss a single spot of the foreign tribe's fluorescent light. Long Yu moved alone. Whenever he saw a foreign glowing light, he would immediately condense Revelation Level 9 Nether Divine Runes and bombard it with 9 Nether Dragon Breath. This was still one of his more destructive methods. It consumed less energy, so he could use it continuously without worrying about running out of energy. One after another, the foreign glows were cleaned up by the 3 of them. Nothing was left. About 4 to 6 hours later, the 3 of them finally regrouped at the place where they killed the foreign war criminal. This training mission was more or less completed. Chapter 1374. The trial issued by the Demigods College this time was not too difficult, except that it demanded a high deduction ability of the recipients. If it weren't for Red Oriole, it would have been very difficult to find the alien war criminals on the Dragon Elixir planet from too far away. The final battle was not too difficult. If an ordinary 7th phase great ruler from the outside world had come, they would have been able to kill the alien war criminals easily. Just like that, each of them had obtained 1 million Legion merit points from the battlefield so easily. The ease with which these Legion merit points came made Long Yu feel a little emotional. Previously, on the battlefield of the Ice God clan against the alien race, the team he followed had gone through a lot of hardships and finally obtained 1 million battlefield merits. Now that he was in the Demigod Academy, it was actually so easy to obtain 1 million battlefield merits. Of course, it was not easy to say that it was, but in comparison, the speed of obtaining battlefield merits in the Demigod Academy was much faster than participating in the battle of the alien race. The Demigod Academy was an existence that trained peak combat power in the first place. It was completely normal to have such benefits. Otherwise, how could they train the top combat power of the human race and the demon race? Now, as long as Long Yu and the others went back and handed over the experience seal, they would be able to obtain 3 million battlefield merits. As for how the 3 of them would split it among themselves, it was up to them. Originally, Moon Song did not want to split it equally with Long Yu. After all, Long Yu's martial arts realm was too weak. If he was just a bystander during the trial, she would definitely not be willing to give the 1 million battlefield merits to Long Yu. But after the battle, just now, she saw Long Yu's usefulness. Not to mention anything else, when the alien war criminals wanted to escape, it was Long Yu who activated the Dragonbone Tower and created a void domain to stop them. Otherwise, the situation might have become even more complicated. Although Moon Song was the main force in the process of dealing with the alien war criminals, Red Oriole and Long Yu were also indispensable. Even if they did not contribute as much as Moon Song could not be bothered to argue with them. In any case, Moon Song had seen Long Yu's astonishing potential in this battle. As for Red Oriole, she believed that she wouldn't be any weaker than her after a year in the Demigod Academy. Since they were going to be comrades in arms in the future, there was no need to split the contribution points on the battlefield so clearly. It was best to split them evenly. However, Long Yu did not want to return to the Demigods College right now, because he had finally come to the edge of the human territory and was close to the extraterrestrial space. He wouldn't be at ease until he took care of some things. The first matter was regarding Long Yu's father, Long Zitian. He had to find a way to meet him. The second thing was to invite Little White's old friend to the Void Galaxy. He was a powerful weaponsmith, and Long Yu had always kept this matter in mind. Our current location is on the Dragon Pill Star. It's very close to the address on the Jade Slip that Xiao Bai gave us. Long Yu said to Red Oriole. When Little White had introduced the weaponsmith to Long Yu, she had given him a Jade Slip. The Jade Slip recorded a few of the weaponsmith's residences. Little White didn't know where the weaponsmith was, but he would be near those places. One of those places was near the Dragon Pill Star, the Phoenix Pill Star. The Dragon Pill Star and the Phoenix Pill Star could be said to be a pair. They revolve around each other and were known as the Dragon and Phoenix Twin Stars. It was one of the rarer twin star systems in the Qing Luo galaxy. The biggest characteristic of the twin stars was that they revolved around each other and could produce some special energy, forming a special region between the two stars. Ordinary cultivators weren't able to step into that special area, because it was filled with chaotic energy flows. Even a 7th stage Sovereign Realm expert had to be careful at all times when stepping into that area. Otherwise, the slightest carelessness would cause them to be drowned and devoured by the chaotic energy flows. As for the weaponsmith senior that Little White had recommended, one of his residences was in the middle of that turbulent energy. It was at the center of the Dragon Pill Star and the Phoenix Pill Star. As the twin stars revolved around each other, they also slowly revolved around a divine rune origin in the distance. Similarly, the divine rune origin brought light and energy to the twin stars. The turbulent energy between the twin stars was extremely difficult for ordinary people to pass through. However, it wasn't a problem for Long Yu. After all, he had the void nether dragon blade. He could even pass through the turbulent energy of the Genesis 5 elements, let alone the turbulent energy between the twin stars. Long Yu still remembered that Little White had said that the weaponsmith senior was an old man with a strange temper. It was best to visit him alone, and he also needed Little White's jade slip to do so. This put Long Yu in a difficult position. If they wanted to return to the Demigod College, they could only do so through the Seal of Experience. However, there was only one Seal of Experience. In other words, the three of them had to go back together, or one of them had to stay in the outside world. Until now, Long Yu didn't know where the headquarters of the Demigod College was. Even Moonsong, who had been in the Demigod College for a year, didn't know. In any case, there was no other way to return to the Demigod College other than using the Seal of Experience. From this, it could be seen that the Demigod College was probably not in the human or demon territories. It was highly possible that it existed in a place similar to the Void Galaxy. Who knew? How about Red Oriole, Moonsong? You two go back to the Demigod College first. You can accept another mission. After you finish the next mission, you can bring me back with you. How about that? Long Yu thought for a moment, then said to the two girls. On one hand, Long Yu had to go alone to find the weaponsmith senior. On the other hand, when he went to find his father, Long Zaijian, it was best not to involve anyone else. After all, it was his own private matter. It was fine for Red Oriole, but it would be bad if Moonsong was involved. Therefore, after thinking for a moment, Long Yu made this suggestion. He let the two girls return to the Demigod College first. When they finished their next mission, they could come and pick up Long Yu and go back together. Calculating the time, if everything went smoothly, Long Yu would be able to complete both of his tasks. Of course, success or failure was not guaranteed. When the time came, no matter who finished their tasks first, they could wait for the other party. This was not bad. Long Yu felt that it would be too much of a waste of their time if he were to make the two girls wait for him now. However, after they had completed their second training, they should be able to synchronize their time. Hearing Long Yu's suggestion, Red Oriole was a little unhappy, but she didn't say anything. She understood that Long Yu's suggestion was the best. In any case, Long Yu could handle the rest of the matters by himself. That way, when she was free, she could complete more missions and obtain more battlefield merits, which could be exchanged for more cultivation resources. Right, I'll give these 2 bottles of divine wine to you first. Long Yu handed over 5 bottles of divine wine from his pocket world to Red Oriole. There were a total of 5 bottles, and he gave 2 to Red Oriole. This should be enough for the time being. After all, each bottle of divine wine took effect for quite a long time. If it wasn't enough, he could talk about it later. In any case, this divine wine cost 4 million battlefield merits, and he could exchange for more when he had enough missions. However, Long Yu hadn't tried the effects of the divine wine yet. When things were more or less done here, he could drink a bottle and try it out. He wanted to see how much faster it could help him comprehend the various powers. He could feel that after fusing the metal-type Holy Spirit source into his small world, he was able to continuously and automatically comprehend the metal-type primordial power. At this rate, in another half a month or so, he would be able to comprehend 10% of metal-type primordial power. As long as he could comprehend 10%, the effects would be very good. It would increase the speed at which he comprehended the Protex Grade 9 Nether Divine text, and it would also increase the power of his various techniques by 10%. After all, metal-type primordial power was the foundation of the 9 Nether Divine text. No matter what grade the 9 Nether Divine text was, it was derived from metal-type primordial power. Comprehending metal-type primordial power was still relatively important. For Long Yu, the divine wine was mainly used to comprehend the Protex Grade 9 Nether Divine text. Right now, he had comprehended 30%. It had to be said that every 10% he comprehended from the Protex Grade 9 Nether Divine text would double his strength, which had an excellent effect on improving his strength. In that case, Red Oriole and I will be going back first. We'll try to bring our next training nearby. That way, we'll be able to meet up with you as soon as possible, Moonsong said to Longyu with a smile. All right, I'll be troubling you. MHM, sorry to trouble you. Longyu nodded, his impression of Moonsong growing even more favorable. This girl treated people well. She didn't look down on him and Red Oriole just because her cultivation was higher than his and Red Oriole's. In reality, if it were anyone else, Longyu would most likely be quite disgusted that he was doing his personal business during the training. However, Moonsong didn't feel any disgust. Instead, she expressed understanding of his actions. Then we'll be going back first. The reward for this training, the 1 million Battlefield Army Merit Points, will be given to Red Oriole. If you don't come back, we won't be able to give you the Battlefield Army Merit Points, Moonsong said. Then we'll be going back first. It'll be the same for Red Oriole. Longyu nodded with a smile. Be careful, then, Red Oriole said to Longyu, her tone filled with concern. Ever since she had gotten together with Longyu, she hadn't been separated from him for too long. However, this time, the two of them might be separated for a little longer. After all, these two matters for Longyu might not be settled so quickly, and on Red Oriole's side, the next training might not be as smooth. Chapter 1375. Then, Red Oriole and Moonsong activated the Mark of Experience and returned to the Demigod Academy. Longyu would handle the rest of the matters by himself. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed that after he got together with Red Oriole, the two of them had indeed been separated less. Now that he was suddenly alone again, he was not used to it. However, he did not think too much about it. Instead, he immediately shifted his attention to what he was about to do. The senior weaponsmith that Little White recommended was known as the Heavenfire Doyen. His whereabouts were erratic. If not for the few residences that Little White had provided, basically no one would be able to find him deliberately. Longyu now had Little White's recommendation jade slip, and he happened to be near the Dragon Star and the Phoenix Star. He could go and look for him. Perhaps he was in the power vortex of the Dragon Star and the Phoenix Star. Little White did not provide too much information about the Heavenfire Doyen. She only mentioned that the Heavenfire Doyen had a strange temper. Little White had also explained that she definitely could not tell Longyu too much about the Heavenfire Doyen, because that would make Longyu be prepared when he went to meet the Heavenfire Doyen. According to the Heavenfire Doyen's strange temper, once he discovered that Longyu was making preparations against him, the matter would definitely be ruined. Therefore, Little White simply did not say anything and let Longyu do whatever he wanted after meeting the Heavenfire Doyen. That way, the chances of success would be higher. After the two girls left, Longyu entered the internal space of the Void Nether Dragon Blade. Then he asked Little Void to leave the ground of the Dragon Pill Star and fly into the sky. He turned his head to look at the Dragon Elixir Star one last time. He recalled the expedition just now. The Alien Clan war criminals were finally cleaned up. All the Alien Clan fluorescent lights were also cleaned up. This expedition could be considered to have been completed perfectly. If all the experiences are like this, then the experiences in the Demigod College are rather simple. However, this is clearly one of the simpler ones. I hope that Moonsong and Red Oriole will not have any accidents in the following experiences. As Longyu thought to himself, the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade had already flown away from the Dragon Elixir planet and into the sky. The Dragon Star and the Phoenix Star maintained a distance of more than 10 million kilometers from each other. The turbulent energy flows of the two stars condensed between the two stars, and the entire area was 100 kilometers wide. Normally, no one would come to this chaotic flow of energy because if they weren't careful, even a 7th phase dominator could lose his life here. Longyu had nothing to fear. After traveling through the void a few times, he and Little Sue arrived in front of the turbulent flow of energy from the two stars. The entire turbulent flow of energy was born from the constant rotation of the Dragon and Phoenix stars. Like a whirlpool, it appeared in this part of the void. The intensity of its power was not far from the absolute beginning five-element storm on both sides of the space-time corridor. For Long Yu, this was not a problem at all. I wonder if Elder Skyfire is here. As Long Yu thought to himself, he let the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade enter the power storm. Very soon, he discovered that the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade was not affected by the power storm at all, and he finally heaved a sigh of relief. As expected of an absolute beginning divine grade that had been smelted by the absolute beginning furnace. This Nether Spirit Dragon Blade was definitely one of the most precious items on Long Yu. After entering the power storm, the speed of the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade's advancement slowed down. After all, this could be said to be Elder Skyfire's territory. Nobody knew if there were any restrictions or arrays here. According to Little White, apart from being a top-notch weaponsmith, the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade also had extremely high attainments in setting up arrays. This power storm was one of Elder Skyfire's residences. Long Yu did not believe that there were no arrays here. However, the entire power storm was enough to prevent most people from disturbing Elder Skyfire. Hence, if Elder Skyfire had set up arrays here, they would definitely be special arrays. To pass through these special arrays, one definitely did not need absolute combat power. It did not mean that one had to be a 7th phase Great Ruler to pass through. It was definitely not. If that was the case, Elder Skyfire would not have chosen to stay in this power storm. Therefore, through his guesses, Long Yu knew that there must be some kind of special spirit formation. As for what kind of special spirit formation it was, he didn't know, but he wanted to see it for himself. Elder Skyfire's attainments in arrays are second to none in the human race and the demon race. Although he is not number one, he is at least in the top ranks. Long Yu recalled what Little White had told him. He was constantly vigilant of his surroundings. Once any arrays were triggered by the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade, he would be able to react immediately. The Nether Spirit Dragon Blade turned into a blue flowing light and traversed through the power storm as though it was walking on flat ground. It did not encounter any obstruction. With the ability of the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade, the power storm did not affect it much. As he went deeper, Long Yu gradually felt the special aura around him. Although the power storm did not change in intensity, the pressure he felt from the surroundings was getting stronger. Gradually, Long Yu felt a fog floating around him. It even pulled him out of the inner space of the Nether Spirit Dragon Blade and threw him into an extremely special space. The sudden appearance of this dense fog caused Long Yu to immediately become cautious. He knew that this must have triggered one of the spirit arrays that the Heaven Fire Doyen had set up. The fog contains mental power. This is the power of the primordial 5 elements of the wood element. I haven't had much contact with this before. Luckily, the power of the primordial 5 elements of the wood element isn't particularly powerful. Elder Skyfire should not have fully comprehended it. Long Yu thought to himself, and then pulled himself together. Now, he was equivalent to being trapped in this array. He had to find the array, and destroy it before he could leave this place. Looking around, it was a vast expanse of whiteness. The primordial 5 elements of the wood element had turned into a fog that shrouded his entire body. All of a sudden, Long Yu felt as if something was moving within the fog. He immediately became even more vigilant. To his left, there seemed to be something that was about to come out. "Come out!" Long Yu shouted. Then, he saw a familiar figure slowly appear from the fog on his left. When he saw this figure, Long Yu could not help but be stunned. That figure was actually Red Oriole. Dressed in red, she was slim and graceful. Of course, Long Yu was very familiar with this figure. At this moment, this Red Oriole's face was slightly red, as though she was a little pure and innocent. She slowly approached Long Yu. Long Yu frowned slightly. First of all, this could not be the real Red Oriole. After all, Red Oriole and Moonsong had already left this place. He had seen them return to the Demigod College through the experience seal with his own eyes. Even if she had accepted the next experience mission, it was impossible for her to happen to be nearby, and it was even more impossible for her to run into this energy storm to affect Long Yu. In this way, It could be deduced that the figure of red Oriole in front of him was completely an illusion. Since it was an illusion, Long Yu had to determine what to do next. Should he directly destroy it, or should he deal with it in another way? There are many different types of mental illusion arrays, and the ways to deal with them are also very different. I wonder how I should deal with this mental illusion array. As Long Yu thought to himself, he watched as the figure of red Oriole approached him. He could even smell the faint fragrance from her body. That familiar smell made Long Yu's heart move, and it actually evoked a trace of desire in him. This situation caused Long Yu's heart to become even more vigilant. From the looks of it, this mental formation was not only capable of producing images. As the figure of red Oriole got closer and closer, her beautiful smile became more and more like a real existence. This made Long Yu know that he definitely could not let her continue to get closer. Otherwise, under the influence of this mental illusion array, Long Yu, might really die here. However, how to deal with this illusion of red Oriole left Long Yu in a difficult position. That was because he recalled what Little White had said about Heaven Fire Doyen's eccentric temperament. However, this mental illusion spirit array did not affect Long Yu's mental state much. Hence, if it was simply to shatter these illusions, Heaven Fire Doyen would definitely not set up such a simple spirit array. In that case, how to deal with red Oriole's illusion became the biggest problem. Time was of the essence. As the figure continued to approach, Long Yu tried to retreat. He discovered that this way, the figure of the figure gradually became indistinct, as if it was about to disappear from Long Yu's eyes. No, I can't retreat either. Otherwise, this illusion array will be too simple. Long Yu quickly stopped in his tracks and once again moved forward, facing the illusion of the red Oriole. The other party gradually became clearer, and a faint fragrance assailed his nostrils once again. This time, the red Oriole seemed to have become even more real than before. "Why are you running? Hurry up and come over," the illusion of red Oriole rebuked. Her eyes were seductive, and her every movement tugged at one's heartstrings. An indescribable feeling immediately filled Long Yu's heart. His mind was immediately affected, and the line of defense in his mind seemed to collapse in an instant. Heaven Fire Doyen's mental illusion array wasn't a joke. With Long Yu's abilities, he would be affected by it in a matter of minutes and be completely trapped in the illusion. What attribute primordial power was a domain that Long Yu was completely unfamiliar with. At this moment, the effects of the illusion array were activated, and Long Yu was instantly pulled into the illusion. Red Oriole's illusion had already arrived beside Long Yu. She raised her hand gently, and her eyes were like water, as if she was about to completely enchant him. However, right at this moment, Long Yu suddenly quivered and sobered up. That was because he discovered a flaw in his plan. This was Red Oriole's spiritual illusion. Her left wrist was as smooth as jade and as white as snow. However, Long Yu was very familiar with Red Oriole. Of course, he knew that there was a pair of blood-colored wings on her left wrist. This was a mark that belonged to the blood demon race, a mark that they would wear for the rest of their lives. It was also this tiny detail that allowed Long Yu to break free from the influence of the mental illusion array. Chapter 1376. Through this small detail, Long Yu had managed to escape the influence of the wood elemental primordial energy. When he opened his eyes again, he discovered that Red Oriole's figure had already disappeared, but the wood elemental primordial energy still lingered in the surroundings. This meant that even though Long Yu had broken through Red Oriole's trial, he still hadn't broken through the psychic illusion array. Perhaps something else would happen next. Just as this thought crossed Long Yu's mind, he discovered that another figure had appeared from another direction. This figure was also someone he was familiar with. It was actually the dual immortal and demonic cultivator, Consort Yu. Amidst a wave of ethereal immortal chi, Consort Yu's figure was faintly discernible as she slowly approached Long Yu. Consort Yu's figure radiated a mysterious power from the psychic illusion array, enveloping Long Yu's entire body within it. Just now, Red Oriole had given Long Yu a feeling of lust, but now, Consort Yu had given Long Yu a feeling of coercion. As Consort Yu gradually approached through the fog, Long Yu felt as if his entire body was being crushed under a mountain. This was an extremely unpleasant feeling, but because of the psychic illusion array, Long Yu had unknowingly been completely immersed within it, unable to extricate himself. Cold sweat continuously trickled down Long Yu's forehead. As Consort Yu's figure continued to approach, the divine characters of the underworld and the mysterious immortal Chi swirled in front of his eyes, as if wanting to tear his entire body apart. This feeling was incomparably real, making it difficult for him to escape no matter what. Consort Yu had no reason to attack Long Yu, so Long Yu knew very well that the scene in front of him was an illusion, but he couldn't break free. Thinking about how he had just broken through Red Oriole's trial, Long Yu forced himself to focus and constantly observe Consort Yu's figure within the fog of immortal Chi. With a single glance, he was able to discern the problem. This was because he could faintly see a snow-white necklace hanging around the fair neck of Consort Yu's figure. This necklace was Consort Yu's absolute beginning divine grade absolute beginning necklace. However, Long Yu recalled that Consort Yu's necklace had clearly been damaged previously. Now, what appeared in front of him was a complete necklace of immortal Chi. This flaw caused the situation in front of him to collapse by itself. Long Yu's entire body quivered, and he finally struggled out of the illusory situation. If he did not discover a flaw, the mental illusion array formation would trap Long Yu in it forever, and he would not be able to extricate himself. After all, this was an array formation set up by the Heavenfire Doyen, a peak array formation master. Even if Long Yu kept reminding himself that this was an illusion, he would not be able to extricate himself from it. However, when he discovered the flaw, the illusion matrix collapsed on its own. This was the matrix that the Heavenfire Doyen had set up. What it tested was nothing more than the understanding of the person who was trying to break the matrix about the people around him. After going through the two tests of Red Oriole and Consort Yu, Long Yu had some understanding of the mental illusion array formation's operation mode. Next, it was much easier to break the array formation. Next, Shi Yingwu appeared, then Liao Lele, then Yin Huan, then Mo Huan, then Man Exen, then Chia. One by one, Long Yu's friends and brothers appeared in the illusion array formation. However, he saw through them one by one and found their flaws. After 8 consecutive times, the entire mental illusion array formation finally collapsed. Long Yu reappeared in the internal space of his nether dragon blade, his entire body covered in cold sweat. Although it was just a mental illusion array formation, the scene within it was still too realistic. Long Yu almost could not recover. Wave after wave of illusions attacked him, and he was extremely mentally exhausted. It seems that if there's a chance, I should strive to comprehend the wood primordial power and strengthen my mental strength. It should also improve the effect of the body of pure world. Long Yu now knew how high the level of the Heavenfire Doyen was. It should be known that he had cultivated the martial arts secret technique of the 6th level of the body of pure world. Ordinary mental attacks would not be able to pull him in at all. They would not even be able to affect him at all. However, the mental illusion array formation just now had completely dragged Long Yu into it. His mind was unable to extricate itself. It could be imagined that if it was not for the body of pure world that had helped Long Yu block a part of the attack, the power of the array formation would be even stronger and the impact on Long Yu would be even greater. Even Long Yu might not be able to successfully break this array formation. In any case, Long Yu finally escaped from the mental illusion array formation. He sorted out his emotions and continued to move forward. His current position was still quite far from the center of the twin star turbulence. The residence of the Heavenfire Doyen in the twin star turbulence was in the most central position. Along the way, he would probably have to pass through several arrays. The arrays that I encounter along the way will definitely get stronger and stronger. Fortunately, I have the body of pure world. I don't know if I can withstand it. However, if even I can't withstand it, it's even more impossible for others. Long Yu is still very confident in his own ability. Then, he let the nether dragon blade continue to move forward. Next, what Long Yu encountered was still an illusion array formation. There was no place where he needed to face it head-on. This was also what Long Yu had guessed from the beginning. The surrounding twin star turbulence had already blocked most people with insufficient cultivation from entering. These illusion arrays did not require cultivation at all. The second array formation was also a mental illusion array formation. Its strength was similar to the first array formation. Long Yu could not discover the array formation along the way in advance, so he barged in again. The illusion of this spirit formation was the complete opposite of the first spirit formation. The figures that appeared in the first array formation were all Long Yu's relatives and friends. The figures in the second array formation were the opponents that he had killed on the road of martial arts. Moreover, there were a lot of them. They were not alone. The murderous intent filled the entire space, which made Long Yu's heart beat faster. From the Tang Kingdom on the Heavenly Mandate floating island to the North Sea Kingdom, to the Heavenly Mandate Sacred Institute in the Heavenly Gang Realm, and then to the Azura County, the North Snow Dynasty, the sacred city of the Five Emperors. Along the way, the number of opponents Long Yu had killed, be it the human race, the demon race, or the alien race, had already reached an uncountable number. At this moment, what appeared in front of him were the vengeful spirits of these creatures, constantly approaching Long Yu. The powerful wood primordial power from the mental illusion array dragged Long Yu into it. Even with the body of pure world blocking it, it only weakened the influence that Long Yu's spirit suffered a little. It only reduced the power of the entire array by about 10 to 20%. Countless vengeful spirits came for his life. Long Yu felt as if he had fallen into hell. The murderous intent filled his surroundings, causing his eyes to gradually turn red. Among the vengeful spirits around him, there were some powerful existences, such as the group of White Feather Demon Clan, Golden Dragon Demon Clan, and other experts in the Sovereign Secret Realm who were killed by the explosion of the Nine Abyss Prison Tablet. Among them, there were many existences in the Great Sovereign Realm. At this moment, they became the strongest among the vengeful spirits around Long Yu. These vengeful spirits brought the most pressure to Long Yu. He even felt a little breathless. He knew that it was an illusion, but there was no way to break it. These guys, they all died in my hands. Even if they appear again, I can still kill them. Long Yu's eyes were red, and he resisted the urge to attack. He knew that everything in front of him was an illusion. If he really attacked and wanted to kill these vengeful spirits, the situation would definitely become irreversible. The mental illusion array of the Heaven Fire Doyen did not require the challenger to attack. Long Yu was now sure of this. Calm down, calm down. Long Yu's heart gradually calmed down, and he allowed the murderous intent to affect him. He clenched his fists and didn't use any of the energy in his body. As the vengeful spirits got closer, the pressure on Long Yu increased. Soon, a few vengeful spirits reached Long Yu's side, and they flew towards Long Yu. Their cries were endless, and the murderous intent around Long Yu grew stronger. If it was someone with a weak mind, they would really attack in such a situation. After all, attacking in the face of danger was the first reaction of any cultivator. However, with the help of the pure world physique, Long Yu was able to slightly reduce the impact of the mental illusion array. Thus, he was able to maintain his rationality. Even though the vengeful spirits were about to stick to Long Yu's face, Long Yu clenched his fists and didn't waver at all. Even though his forehead was dripping with sweat, he still managed to control himself. As the vengeful spirits surged towards Long Yu like a tidal wave, Long Yu was as still as a mountain. Finally, some vengeful spirits started to collide with Long Yu's body. Boundless murderous intent and murderous intent instantly filled his mind. Under the influence of the vengeful spirits' murderous intent and murderous intent. Long Yu almost couldn't help but attack. However, he ultimately clenched his teeth and held on. This was because when these vengeful spirits collided with Long Yu's body, they didn't cause him any harm. This further proved that Long Yu's guess was correct. In order to break this mental illusion array, he didn't need to attack at all. He just needed to hold on to his heart. The more Long Yu thought of this, the calmer his mood became. Even the vengeful spirits around him gradually turned a blind eye to them. He let them collide with his body and then disappear. Gradually, the vengeful spirits in the surroundings started to dissipate. Following Long Yu's imposing aura, which was as immovable as a mountain, all of the vengeful spirits dissipated on their own, no longer able to affect Long Yu in the slightest. Originally, these guys were killed by Long Yu in the past. Now that he saw them again, Long Yu wouldn't have any emotions. Calmness had always been Long Yu's attitude towards the dead. If it wasn't for the influence of the wood attribute power in the mental illusion array, this round would have been much easier for Long Yu. He wouldn't even have been affected in the slightest. When the vengeful spirits dissipated, the entire mental illusion array was broken. Long Yu didn't stop and continued to walk towards the center of the binary star turbulence. Chapter 1377. After breaking through the two illusions, Long Yu continued forward. Soon, the nether void dragon blade passed through the turbulent flow of the two stars. After traveling for more than 10 kilometers, Long Yu felt that he was surrounded by the wood element primordial power again. This made him vigilant again. The wood element primordial power was a tyrannical power of the mind. The source of all illusions and mental power was the wood element primordial power. Therefore, Long Yu guessed that he had entered a new illusion array. Just as he expected, a white-clothed figure appeared in front of him faintly. Long Yu's figure also gradually separated from the nether void dragon blade's inner space and came to a place filled with white fog. The white-clothed figure appeared in front of Long Yu, causing Long Yu to frown slightly. This was because he didn't recognize the white-clothed figure. Whether it was an enemy or a friend, Long Yu was sure that he had never seen this guy before. Although the two sides were still very far away, and he couldn't see the other party's appearance clearly, Long Yu could use the balance control secret art to strengthen his spiritual awareness and sense the other party's appearance and aura. This appearance, it looks a little familiar, but I have never seen it before. Could it be a friend or an enemy's relative? Long Yu frowned slightly. He pondered for a moment in his mind and suddenly realized something. He couldn't help but be startled. No wonder it looked a little familiar. The face of the white-clothed figure looked very similar to Long Yu's. As for the white-clothed figure's aura, it was the aura of some kind of thunder divine character. It was also derived from the metal element primordial power. He could feel the tyrannical power of the white-clothed figure. The martial Tao realm of a seventh phase great dominator. Long Yu's heart moved. He couldn't help but guess the identity of the other party. Could it be his father, Long Zai, whom he had never met before? First of all, the face of the white-clothed figure looked very similar to Long Yu. They were at least 70% similar. Secondly, the martial Tao realm of a seventh-stage dominator also corresponded with Long Zai's current strength. After all, Long Zai was a commander of a legion on the battlefield, and a seventh-stage dominator was a rigid requirement for a commander. Judging from his aura and the information provided by the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor, Long Zai's comprehension of the Thunder attribute divine text should be relatively strong, at least surpassing some of the other divine text attributes. Therefore, the white-clothed figure in front of him was most likely Long Yu's father, Long Zai. However, why would Long Zai appear here? Long Yu suddenly quivered as he realized that he had been dragged into a spiritual illusion array. If the white-clothed figure in front of him was really Long Zai, then it was merely an illusion. Right now, what Long Yu was thinking about shouldn't be whether this fellow was Long Zai or not, but how to break this spiritual illusion formation. With the pure world physique blocking, Long Yu wasn't completely controlled by the spiritual illusion array, and he still had a trace of consciousness. However, he didn't have any guesses as to how to break this illusion array. He could only wait for the white-clothed figure that looked like Long Zaition to come closer and see what the other party wanted to do. As the white-clothed figure approached, Long Yu continuously felt that the white-clothed figure emitted waves of killing intent, and the closer the killing intent got, the denser the killing intent became. Long Yu was extremely sensitive to killing intent, and now he was sure that he wasn't hallucinating. Killing intent constantly emitted from the white-clothed figure. Of course, this killing intent was only aimed at Long Yu. Other than Long Yu, there were no other living beings present. Long Yu, as expected of my Long Zaition son. Ha! You actually came out from the Nine Netherworld, and even stepped into the sovereign secret realm. Ha ha! A burst of laughter rang out abruptly. The voice of the white-robed figure was clear and refreshing. However, even that laughter contained waves of killing intent. This killing intent caused Long Yu to subconsciously raise his guard. However, since you've come out, there will be a day where you will obstruct me. Since that's the case, I'll kill you today, lest you ruin my grand plan in the future. The white-clothed figure laughed heartily, and waves of killing intent spread out. His words shocked Long Yu even more. This white-clothed figure had already admitted that he was Long Zaition, and yet he still wanted to kill him. Long Yu? Calm down, calm down. This is just an illusion. This white-clothed figure is completely an image created by the spiritual illusion array, and it isn't my father, Long Zaition. Beads of cold sweat appeared on Long Yu's forehead, and he kept reminding himself that this was just an illusion. However, as the white-clothed figure got closer and closer, the pressure from the heavens became stronger, as if Mount Tai was crushing down on him, and Long Yu's body was unable to move. Heavenly prison lightning break. The white-clothed figure approached, and the face that resembled Long Yu had a calm expression, and his eyes were filled with indifference, as if he didn't treat Long Yu as his own son. Raising his hand, he condensed a beam of lightning, and this was the heavenly prison lightning. The lightning broke through the air, and it headed straight for Long Yu. What should I do? Should I dodge? Should I block it? Beads of cold sweat appeared on Long Yu's forehead, and a trace of hesitation appeared in the depths of his heart. He was worried that if the white-clothed figure was really his father, Long Zaition, and Long Zaition really wanted to kill him, then if he didn't dodge now, he would be giving the other party the best opportunity. If Long Yu wanted to defend himself, he only needed to take out the 9 Hell Tablet and hide in his small world. It would be completely enough for the other party to shatter the 9 Hell Tablet, no matter what. On the contrary, the other party's powerful attack would definitely cause the 9 Hell Tablet to explode with its own power. In that case, the entire twin star turbulence would probably be completely annihilated. In other words, if Long Yu wanted to block it, he could easily do so, and at least he wouldn't be in any danger. But in that case, the spiritual illusion array would achieve its desired effect, which was to make Long Yu no longer believe that this was an illusion. In that case, Long Yu wouldn't even be able to break the spiritual illusion array, and it would be even more difficult for him to see the Heaven Fire Elder. Even if the other party was in the middle of the twin star turbulence, it would be basically impossible for him to see the other party. If he failed, he wouldn't even be able to see the other party, let alone invite the other party to the Void Galaxy to hold the fort. The choice was completely up to Long Yu, and Long Yu only had the time to blink an eye. In this blink of an eye, Long Yu had to make a choice. Should he believe that what was in front of him was an illusion, or should he prioritize his own life and protect himself first? Long Yu clenched his teeth. At this moment, he had already sunk into an illusion. He could no longer sense the existence of the wood primordial energy around him. However, he knew that the wood primordial energy had not dissipated. Instead, it was becoming denser and denser. It was just that Long Yu was used to the aura of the wood primordial energy, so he subconsciously ignored it. He couldn't even sense the wood primordial energy when he wanted to deliberately sense it. This was because part of his senses had been paralyzed by the illusion array. Even when Long Yu combined his balanced control and pure world body, these two martial arts secret arts, he was unable to weaken the numbing effect in the slightest. No matter what, this Heavenfire Elder is the best candidate to hold the fort in the Void Galaxy. So, as long as there's a glimmer of hope, I definitely can't give up. Moreover, I'm 99% sure that this figure of Long Zaition is completely an illusion. As Long Yu thought to himself, he finally made his final decision. He would remain as still as a mountain and continue to take the opponent's attack head-on. In the next moment, in the blink of an eye, the beam of divine runes from the sky, prison lightning landed on Long Yu's abdomen. When Long Yu decided to believe in his own intuition, he didn't even try to dodge. Instead, he allowed the beam of divine runes to land on his dantian, the vital point. In the next moment, Long Yu didn't feel any injuries on his body. Instead, his surroundings suddenly became clear. The white-clothed figure that was originally blocking his path also laughed lightly, before gradually becoming blurry in front of Long Yu's eyes. In the end, it completely disappeared. This scene allowed the tense Long Yu to finally heave a sigh of relief. Obviously, he had made the right bet, even though the probability of making the right bet in this situation was not small. After all, Long Zaition was a commander of the army on the battlefield. How could he have come to the twin star turbulence of the Dragon and Phoenix stars? Moreover, Long Yu didn't think that Long Zaition had really abandoned him and Bei Yuyao. Long Zaition definitely had his own reasons for not returning to the Heavenly Mandate continent. As for what the reason was, Long Yu didn't know, but it was definitely not because he was afraid that he and Bei Yuyao would hinder him in any way. The figure in white completely disappeared before Long Yu's eyes. The power of the wood element also quickly dissipated in the surrounding twin star turbulence, and Long Yu found that he was still in the inner space of the Nether Dragon Blade. Obviously, the scene just now was completely an illusion created in Long Yu's mind. He hadn't even left the inner space of the Nether Dragon Blade. This kind of powerful spiritual illusion matrix was definitely an extremely magical means, and it could create different illusions according to each person's mood, which was undoubtedly admirable. If there are such powerful weapon refiners and matrix masters in the Void Galaxy, the defense will be further enhanced, which will play a key role in the development of the entire Void Galaxy. Once again, Long Yu sighed with emotion at the power of this spiritual illusion array. Then, he ordered Little Void to continue moving forward. He didn't know if there were any more spiritual illusion arrays in front of him, but no matter what, he had to move forward as fast as possible. Chapter 1378. After breaking 3 mental illusion formations in succession, Long Yu had a taste of Heavenfire Doyen's profound attainments in formation. Moreover, Heavenfire Doyen's main occupation was not to study formation, but weapon refinement. In terms of formation, Heavenfire Doyen was almost at the peak, let alone weapon refinement. He was definitely an existence that stood at the peak of the entire human clan and monster clan. This further strengthened Long Yu's plan to pull Heavenfire Doyen into his camp. To be honest, the forces in the Void Galaxy did not have the foundation and possibility to develop into a powerful force. Apart from the primordial gold pond and the Joyo Dragon Emperor's body, the Void Galaxy did not have a strong foundation. However, if Heavenfire Doyen were to join them, he would be a great help. In terms of importance to a force, the Heavenfire Doyen was definitely not inferior to the absolute beginning Golden Pond. Not only was the value of the Heavenfire Doyen, but he was also able to refine combat weapons and set up magical formations. He could also take in disciples and teach them the techniques of refining weapons and magical formations. Inheritance was the most important and fundamental thing for a force. In order to develop, inheritance was indispensable. Long Yu continued to move forward. Soon, he felt that the double star turbulence had calmed down. It was not as violent as before. I should be almost at the center of the double star turbulence. Long Yu observed his surroundings carefully in the internal space of the Nether Dragon Blade. He found that he had arrived at a place where the power was more stable. It felt like he had finally reached the calm surface of a lake from a raging river. Long Yu finally heaved a sigh of relief. Since he had arrived at this place, he should have passed through all the mental illusion formations, right? Long Yu was not very sure. However, he sensed the situation around him with his strengthened spiritual senses through balance control. He did not find any living beings or traces of living beings in this place. If the Heaven Fire Doyen lives here, he must have a base of operations. No matter what kind of building it is, there must be one. If it's not in a great world, it must be in a small world. However, other than the turbulence of the two stars, there is nothing else here. Where does the Heaven Fire Doyen live? Long Yu frowned slightly. He was still wondering if that old man Tian Hua had already left this place and no longer treated this place as his residence. After all, Xiaobai had said that he had not seen Heaven Fire Doyen for a long time. No one knew where Heaven Fire Doyen was. No matter what, Long Yu had to search the vicinity. As he continued to move forward, he suddenly felt a strange aura behind him. Long Yu immediately turned around, only to see a fiery red mist appear out of thin air behind him, followed by the figures of several old men flying out of the fiery red mist. Long Yu was immediately alerted. He immediately realized that the figures of the few old men were exactly the same. It was an old man wearing a fiery red cloak. His entire body was red, and even his hair and beard were fiery red. Even his eyes were filled with fiery light. 4 of such old men appeared behind Long Yu. The next moment, another 4 appeared on Long Yu's right, and another 4 appeared on his left. In the end, Long Yu's front, back, left, right, up and down, a total of 24 old men wearing fiery red cloaks appeared in 6 different directions. Heaven Fire Doyen? Long Yu was surprised. He did not expect Heaven Fire Doyen to appear in front of him so quickly. Furthermore, he took the initiative to look for him. Originally, he had planned to meet Long Zai Tian if there were no traces of Heaven Fire Doyen in the two stars' turbulence. But now, since Heaven Fire Doyen had appeared, there was no need to go through so much trouble. He should settle this matter first. However, at this very moment, Long Yu looked at the expressions of the 24 Heaven Fire Doyen and felt that they were not happy to see him. Who dares to barge into this old man's residence? 24 Heaven Fire Doyens shouted at the same time. Their auras were vast, and they surrounded Long Yu in the middle. The pressure was extremely terrifying. One had to know that each of the 24 Heaven Fire Doyens had the tyrannical aura of a 7th stage dominator. Even if Long Yu had a firm mind, he was intimidated on the spot when the other party spoke. His mind was shaken, and he almost stopped thinking. This was similar to the effect that Long Yu used the 9 underworld dragons' true spirit to intimidate his enemies. Now, he was also enduring a similar pressure. Even with the pure world body's defense, it couldn't stop the other party's pressure from intimidating Long Yu on the spot. Only after 3 breaths of time did Long Yu gradually recover. When he opened his eyes again, he realized that the 24 Heaven Fire Doyens had completely different expressions. Some were angry, some were laughing, some were cold, some were passionate. The 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's aura had completely changed into 24 different appearances. Senior, Long Yu forced himself to calm down. Under the different aura of the 24 Heaven Fire Doyens, he felt that the power in his body was constantly becoming chaotic, and he was almost unable to control it. However, he still had to say what he needed to say. This is a recommendation jade slip given to me by a friend of mine. Please take a look. Long Yu was embarrassed to say his purpose of coming. It was enough to give Little White's recommendation jade slip. The other party would definitely understand what he meant. Do you want to become this old man's disciple? The 24 Heaven Fire Doyens spoke in unison again. Although their tones were different, they all gave Long Yu a great pressure. Seeing that the other party had no intention of taking Little White's jade slip, Long Yu couldn't help but have a bad premonition. This old man wouldn't chase him out without even taking a look, right? This wasn't good. However, the situation was stronger than the person. If the other party really wanted to chase him away, there was nothing he could do. Without waiting for Long Yu to reply, The 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's avatars spoke in unison. In that case, take a look. As soon as they finished speaking, Long Yu saw a ball of red flame suddenly light up about 10 miles in front of him. The flame was faintly discernible in the dual star turbulence, but it was still very conspicuous. It could be forgotten at a glance. If you can hold that flame in your hand, you'll be qualified to become this old man's disciple. This old man will give you 1 month. The 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's avatars spoke in unison. Their aura pressure didn't weaken in the slightest. It made it hard for Long Yu to move, even if he wanted to. This situation made Long Yu very puzzled. The other party's 24 avatars all had the aura of a 7th rank dominator. To make a lower rank dominator like Long Yu resist the other party's aura and run 10 miles to hold a ball of flame, the difficulty was too high. Although he had 1 month, unless Long Yu could break through to 7th rank dominator within this 1 month, there was basically no hope. In fact, let alone Long Yu, even if it was another 7th rank dominator, it would probably be difficult to do it, right? Most importantly, Long Yu didn't come here to become the Heaven Fire Doyen's disciple. No matter what, Long Yu had to clarify this point. He opened his mouth with great difficulty and said, "Senior, Junior has come here to invite Senior for a matter. This matter should also be very attractive to Senior. It's not because I want to become Senior's disciple." After saying this, Long Yu relaxed a lot. He had already said it. Although Little White's jade slip was useless, if the other party didn't even consider it, then Long Yu couldn't do anything. He could only think of another way to become a weaponsmith. However, after he said this, the other party's reaction made Long Yu feel a little strange. Generally speaking, no matter how strange the other party's temper was, when he heard Long Yu's explanation, he would definitely have some reaction. Whether he chased him away or listened to him continue. In short, he definitely wouldn't be silent. But right now, these 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's avatars were completely silent. 24 doppelgangers. Each doppelganger maintained a different expression. Happiness, anger, sadness, happiness. All of them had different expressions. However, every single doppelganger surrounded Long Yu, not reacting to his words at all. This made Long Yu feel extremely strange. He recalled that when he took out the jade slip, these 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's avatars didn't even look at the jade slip. This situation didn't seem right. Even if Heaven Fire Doyen's temper was strange, it shouldn't be this strange, right? Oh right, these 24 figures, are they all just avatars? Long Yu suddenly thought of this possibility and came to a realization. If these 24 were all avatars, it meant that Heaven Fire Doyen's real body wasn't here. If he wasn't here, then how did these 24 avatars appear? Of course, it was the spirit design. Long Yu came here, triggered the spirit design, and then caused the 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's avatars to appear and surround him. Then, they tyrannically and unreasonably asked him to go through the test and obtain the cluster of flames 10 miles away. It's even a spirit design. Is there no end to it? Long Yu almost broke down. He thought he had finally met Heaven Fire Doyen's, who knew that after some guesses, he would find out that these were all just avatars formed by the spirit design. This was extremely disappointing. But no matter what, since he was here, breaking the spirit design was Long Yu's most important task. Since it's a mental illusion spirit design, these 24 Heaven Fire Doyen's avatars don't have any real power. I don't need to care about them, and just need to hold the cluster of flames in my hand. Long Yu thought to himself. Heaven Fire Doyen's had given him a month's time. In this month's time, he could still study the spirit design in detail. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.